Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Latest edition of the Sports Ballers podcast. My name is Eric. I'm joined by Corey Puffett and Evan Ash. As always, how are you fellas doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Evan?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, Corey is staying alive. He's being worked like a mule at DeMatha as the holiday season approaches, apparently. So hopefully,
this is nothing different than my previous 6 years. Like, I'm used to this by now. Like, I do a lot.
Nevertheless,
I enjoy what I do.
Nevertheless, we will make sure Corey maintains consciousness. In fact, we
fine.
will start by stimulating Corey a little bit. Not in that way.
Oh dear.
Word choice.
We already had some conversations last week regarding certain things like that, so we won't go there this week. Let's start with Major League Baseball, and we'll start with your Yankees, Corey.
Woo!
Namely, ya boy, Aaron Judge. He's back.
Well, I thought you were going to go with still your Yankees, because yes, they are still going to be my Yankees. That is now for sure. No, me having to determine over the course of this offseason whether I'm still going to support them or not. They did what they needed to do. They did what they should have done from the beginning. What was that?
You're going to root for Cleveland instead?
I was not going to root for Cleveland. Why Cleveland of all places?
I don't know. If you're giving up the Yankees, might as well, I don't know, somebody else. You're not going to pick the Phillies, are you?
But why Cleveland?
Well, Cleveland's going to be on this year's...
Sure, not the Phillies. You're absolutely right. Not the Phillies. But there's 28 other teams.
Cleveland's going to be on this year's baseball version of Hard Knocks, and I know that's how you pick teams now. I'm totally making that up, by the way. There's no such thing as that.
I was about to say.
I just completely
That's a really good idea.
It would be kind of a good idea to have a spring training and just...
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, sure.
That'd be cool.
Anyway, get excited about your boy.
Back to Aaron Judge. The Yankees did what they should have done from the get-go, and they signed him, though, for a lot more money than they would have had to had they just ponied up the cash back in, April or March or whenever that was that they were having
this time
talks.
last year, in fact, they could have paid him.
So instead, Judge signs for 9 years, $360 million, and at $40 million per year on average, he is the highest paid position player in Major League Baseball history on a per year basis.
Yeah, big money, man. Good for him. He certainly earned it. Yeah, like he bet on himself, and
he won.
I don't know if you could say anybody won harder by betting on themselves than Aaron Judge.
I don't think that anybody has ever won more by betting on themselves in history in any of the major sports, or maybe any sport in general.
Joe Flacco. He's got a pretty good case, but I also feel like
he got a quarter of the money though.
Was he in the same situation that Judge was in, though, where he decided not to take
He turned down a pretty mediocre offer from the Ravens before the 2012 season and basically said, I'm going to bet on myself. And he went out there and he won the Super Bowl and was tremendous doing so in the playoffs. And then they had to pay him franchise quarterback money, and, well, he got his money. But I would say hitting 62 home runs and winning the MVP – it's that performance exceeds that of what Joe Flacco did. No shade to Flacco. He was obviously great. But that was a 4-game run versus 162 games of being by far the best player in the sport.
Yeah, you got to remember that Joe Flacco was, in fact, quite mediocre during that regular season.
He was about the same as he normally was.
He threw 22 touchdown passes over 16 games, and then he threw 11 and 4 in the playoffs.
With no picks, yeah. So, $40 million a year. I'm imagining you're not all that concerned about the fact that Judge is going to be 31 in late April. And so basically you're going to be paying this guy well into his late 30s at that clip. But I feel like you had to bring him back, right? You can't.
Yeah, you have to bring him back after what he did this season. 9 years is a lot, no doubt. But I mean, he earned every penny of that contract. I have no doubt he's going to continue to be good for the next few years. I mean, he is getting older. He's already kind of old. He was already kind of old when he came into the show. But he's been very healthy over the past couple of years, at least compared to what he was dealing with at times early in his career. Seems to have gotten past that injury bug. So it's really just a matter of trying to keep him fresh, keep his body from breaking down for as long as we can. But the bottom line is he earned this, and I think it's only right for him to be a Yankee for the rest of his career.
I agree
Makes
with
sense.
that as
Good
well,
for him.
and also considering the fact the Yankees are effectively still competing for a World Series, right? Like, just because they lost to the Astros again, they still made the ALCS. They're still a team that figures to be back in the ALCS, hopefully for their sake, not for my sake, because I don't care if they are or not. In fact, I prefer them not to be. But, you know,
if the Yankees aren't in the LCS, that opens up one more spot for the Orioles not to get.
that's probably true, given the way things are going. And that is an opportunity to segue to the Orioles, who came into this season, or this offseason, I should say, and it's liftoff mode, according to the esteemed general manager, Mike Elias, who I still like, and I am not turning on yet.
But you guys very quickly made a very big splash.
It was not even a ripple. We signed Kyle Gibson. Yeah. Just, I am so discouraged by that signing, not because I have anything really against Kyle Gibson, but because it certainly signals more towards the fear side than the optimism side of what the Orioles were going to do this offseason. The hope was that they were going to go out and get a big-name pitcher or two.
Carlos Rodon.
Carlos Rodon is still out there, but signing Kyle Gibson does not suggest that the Orioles are all that interested in revamping this starting rotation, and that was clearly the biggest issue the team had last season in their surprising campaign, where they won 83 games. Right, like that was not the area that you could simply say, well, we've got guys for that. Right, like if you don't want to go out and get Trey Turner because you've got several infield prospects along with Gunnar Henderson already either on the roster or very soon will be on the roster, along with Jackson Holliday, who will probably be with the team in a couple of years. I get that. Same thing with the outfield. If you want to say, hey, we've got Mullins, we've got Kyle Stowers, and Colton Cowser's coming up. Those are your three guys plus Santander. Okay, you can't find five guys either on the come-up or on the Orioles roster that are remotely serviceable starting pitchers. Like, you can't do it. You've got Grayson Rodriguez, who's probably going to break camp with the team this year. He could be good. We figure he's going to be good. He's the number one pitching prospect in baseball.
But he's one guy.
That's one guy. And then you've got Dean Kramer, who pitched well last year. He could continue to pitch well.
He's terrible in 2021, though.
Yes, but he's still a guy that if he's in the rotation, I'm not going to be upset. And then there's...
Unless he's like the number two guy in your rotation.
Sure, but I'm talking just strictly the five guys of slots to fill. And then Kyle Bradish had a promising second half of the season. If he continues to trend in a positive direction, he could be a legit starter. And then there's DL Hall, who has a lot of upside. He's a starting pitching prospect. Remains to be seen whether or not he will ever have the control to be consistent enough there. But if you wanted to go into the season saying, okay, we're going to give him a shot to start, okay, I'm still only named four guys. You need to find a fifth guy, and you're going to need a fifth guy for a number of years. So why not make the fifth guy the best guy?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like there's this idea of, oh, we don't want to sign Carlos Rodon to a 6-year contract because that's a big commitment. I'm like, in 4 years, you're still going to need him. It's not like you're going to have readily available pitching. Why not make sure you go get a guy for this entire stretch that's good? And it's like signing Kyle Gibson, that makes it seem like he's the fifth guy. And, well,
no.
Kyle Gibson sucks. Like, that guy is at best a fifth starter, if that. If we were just going to sign Kyle Gibson, I would have preferred that we just picked up Jordan Lyles' option because it's the same damn thing, and at least we're familiar with him. Why go spend $10 million on some other guy who sucks? Right? Like, that's, again,
Pick up Eric off the street. Let him pitch. He's pitched in the past.
Eric's a lefty too.
I'm a southpaw, baby. You need some left-handed pitching. You know?
Brian Mattis 2.0.
Evan saw me wing the little paper towel ball into the trash can at Oriole Park that one time. I still got it. That was something else. But anyway, like, signing Kyle Gibson does not preclude the Orioles from getting another big name pitcher. But
Getting a big name pitcher.
yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. A big name pitcher.
But it doesn't lend itself to a lot of optimism that they're going to do that.
Like, there is a distinct possibility that that's the only move they make to improve the starting rotation. Whereas if they hadn't signed him,
Improve in heavy air quotes.
yes, put a warm body in there, right? Like, the fact that this happened, if this hadn't happened, I would have said, okay, they are very confident that they're going to go get somebody big, because there are plenty of pretty good pitchers that have come off the market. Like, Jose Quintana got signed, right? And that was the guy that a lot of Orioles fans looked at and said, we could use him. Like, he's not great, but he's pretty good. He would be a decent rotation piece for this team. But the fact that they already have Gibson, that negativity creeps in where you're thinking, is that it? Is that the only move? Because they had to make one move at least. They probably should have made two, but definitely needed to make one. Well, they made one. And it's not very good. So we'll see what happens. A lot of people are, already, how Orioles Twitter is. It's a tinderbox. But we're getting to the point where it legitimately looks like the Orioles aren't going to make a move, especially after the general manager basically said, we're going to go out here and try to make moves in the offseason. And there's been a whole bunch of walking that statement back, and I think that's crap. He said what he said, and he knew what he was implying. Walking it back at this point just means you were full of it. Like, there's no way around that. That doesn't mean I'm saying that if we don't sign Carlos Rodon or Bassett or somebody of that ilk that Michael Elias should be fired. Obviously, that's ridiculous, but it will be the first time that I will be looking at him and having a legitimate criticism for the way he's handled this offseason, because I don't think there's really any justifiable reason to not go get somebody good to help this rotation.
I agree with most of what you said, except for the part about, blocking infield prospects. There's no such thing as having too many good players. Like, if you have too many good players, then just put them somewhere else, or trade them. But to be like, oh well, we can't sign Trey Turner because, so got Connor Norby or somebody. Like, that's absurd. Like, that's just straight up craziness. Yes, me. Oh, but we have Ramon Urias. He can play shortstop, which is also absurd. So the Orioles seem to be not philosophically participating in the free agency portion of the offseason again. Meanwhile, the Yankees are signing people. The Red Sox are signing people. And the Orioles are just, I guess hanging out at the beach or something. Yeah, it's very frustrating, and like you said, Eric, discouraging. Kyle Gibson. Oh, jeez, why? This wasn't even a lateral move, right? Now you brought in somebody who's bad, who takes up a spot on the roster from somebody who just might be good. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, the reason why, though, I mentioned that, Evan, isn't because I disagree. Like, obviously, if the Orioles had brought in Trey Turner, I would have been thrilled. If they, I guess Carlos Correa is still available, if they sign him, I would be thrilled. But I also understand saying, okay, we want to see what we've got with these younger players so that we can figure out where the holes actually are in the system. That doesn't mean, like you said, Evan, that if you go get somebody that's a marquee free agent, you can always, if you have too many good players, you can trade them for a coveted starting pitcher, right? Like, that's something that we've discussed quite a bit, right? Like, we've talked about, because even without a Trey Turner type or a Carlos Correa type, it looks like the Orioles farm system is overloaded with infielders, right? Like we know Gunnar Henderson's the guy. We believe in him, but we also know Joey Ortiz has suddenly turned into a guy that people think is going to be an above-average major league player. Jordan Westberg, people feel the same way. My boy Connor Norby, same way. Kobe Mayo has that type of projection. You've got too many guys at that point. You got to make a move with somebody, but again, it doesn't mean that you can't also build your team through free agency. I mean, what's the excuse? The Orioles have I don't know if they quite still have the lowest payroll in the sport, but it's pretty damn close. Where are you spending the money then, man? Because it's not like they have any upcoming liabilities. Like the guys that are cheap right now will be cheap in 2 years. So I don't understand. And there were people saying stuff like they wouldn't have signed Verlander to the same deal the Mets gave him because they gave him $43 million a year over 2 years. I'm like, why not? The money's not going anywhere else.
Guy just won the Cy Young Award.
Yes. It's not
Would you not want to pay that guy?
It's not like they're paying him for 8 years, right? Like they're paying him for 2. The next 2 years, the Orioles' payroll is still going to be extremely low. So why not? Why wouldn't you get a short-term guy in there until you can maybe try to figure something else out? That's a good option because the guy's still really good. I don't understand why people are so averse to signing good players because they're worried about Peter Angelos' money. I mean, for one thing, it's not our money, and number two, Peter Angelos has spent money before. Like the idea that we just simply can't incur huge costs because the Orioles are a small market, and what are they going to do? It's like, okay, I'm going to say this completely deadpan and with no levels of sincerity, but to make the point, if you're unwilling to spend that kind of money on your major league payroll, you shouldn't have a team.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if that really is it, if it's just like, oh, Baltimore's too small of a market to handle a Major League Baseball team, well, then I guess you better move to Nashville like everybody's pretending is going to happen. But here in the real world, we know
people in Nashville.
Yes, we know that the Orioles can spend the money, and the fact that they refuse to, that's purely and simply just being cheap. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, I agree. It's disappointing, but the whole story hasn't been written yet.
That's true. Like we are not through the offseason, and again, it's distinctly possible that the Orioles could make some type of move here that makes this entire conversation moot. I'm just trying to read the tea leaves the best I can, and they're not indicating positive things.
You see a grim in the tea leaves?
Not quite a grim, but something unpleasant.
Okay.
So before we move on from Major League Baseball, I just want to say, pour one out for the San Diego Padres, who tried so hard to get good players, and they offered them more money than anybody else, and it just didn't happen. Namely, Aaron Judge was offered a 10-year, $410 million deal, which
gracious.
Yes, which
would have made him even more money per year.
Yes, a slightly higher AAV and another year. So, normally the players love their years, but that wasn't sufficient to pry Judge from New York, which doesn't shock me because, it's a marginal. At that point, it's marginal in terms of, how much more benefit you actually get for your money. And Judge is basically Mr. Yankee. Like, Jeter's gone, now it's Judge.
Yeah.
And Judge can embrace that role, and he can parlay that into being an absolute legend, especially if he actually leads the team to a World Series. If that doesn't happen. Sorry, Corey. And then, of course, we know that the Padres also tried to acquire Trey Turner and offered him more money than the Phillies did, but Turner wanted to play on the East Coast, so he went to Philly instead. But I thought it was kind of strange that they were going after Trey Turner when they've already got their infield pretty settled. Right?
Do they, though? Fernando Tatis Jr. has proven himself to be so reliable the last couple years.
Well, they don't really have much of a choice but to rely on him because they gave him all that money.
Well, they offered Trey Turner all that money, too.
It just feels like they could.
They tried to choose the other option.
I understand going after Judge. I get that, but that the Turner deal seemed like desperation. It just did.
You can't make the club in the tub, or on the suspended list.
Exactly. He's not even in the tub anymore. All right, so let's hop over to some college sports. Actually, no, forget that. Real quick, let's just get this out of the way. The U.S. men's national team was knocked out of the knockout stage. They lost 3-1 to the Netherlands in the round of 16. Boom. Let's talk some college basketball.
I actually watched that game, so I would have been ready to talk about it a little bit if they had won, but they did not.
Or had at least competed. It sounds like they didn't even do that. I was on my booze cruise, so I didn't see any of it.
It wasn't a good game.
All right, so
soccer games rarely are anyway, but that was particularly not a good game.
Okay, so we're going to do some college basketball before we get to football because the college basketball is, again, entirely about my team. Because, although, Evan, shout out to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Y'all beat Georgia in basketball.
Yes.
I was keeping my eye on that game because I saw that it was going on. I was like, I wonder if Evan... I know Evan cares much more about football than basketball, but you got to care a little bit about this, right?
Yes, especially since we lead that all-time series. So it's always great to beat the Bulldogs at literally anything. Football, basketball, baseball.
Spades.
Just whatever.
Yeah, sure. Beat them at spades, too.
Love it. At spades, you said?
Yeah. Y'all should have an annual Quidditch game, too.
I know there is a Georgia Tech Quidditch team. I know there is one.
Y'all are appropriately nerdy enough to have one.
Yeah,
but,
that's the question is whether Georgia has one.
But I will say though, Maryland has a Quidditch team too, and it looks just terrible to play.
Looks painful.
Like you gotta walk around with a stick between your gooch every day. Like that's not gonna work. Like that's come on. It's the second time that I've used that term on this podcast.
Is it? I haven't been keeping track.
I think it was in a title.
Really?
Yeah, I was because we were talking about the butt punts from the Dolphins, and I mentioned that the ball went somewhere, and that happened.
I'm going back right now to see if that was the title.
Yeah, that was like week 4.
Certainly in the.
It was this season. So
it was definitely written down as a title.
That far back.
All right, so while Corey is looking up to see the vulgarities I've used on the show before.
Episode 211 for those of you who would like to go back and check it out.
Yeah, check all of it out, man. So anyway, what were we talking about? We're talking about college basketball, right?
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah, so and we're making fun of Quidditch. All right, so we got a little sidetracked. Let's talk about Terps hoops. They beat number 16 Illinois at home. Your boy was there. We talked about that last week. That was an awesome environment, really exciting game. Terps were ahead pretty much the entire time, but it got tight late. Illinois tied it up a couple of times. Jameer Young, shout out to Matha, hit the big 3 to basically ice the game in the last 10 seconds. Just a really, really cool to see the Xfinity Center alive like that again. It's been a long time since there's been that level of excitement in the gym. Even dating back to like the last time I could think of when it was that live was when Gravis Vasquez was playing for the Terps, and that was when I was a freshman in college. So to date myself, that was a long time ago. And so yeah, it was a fun atmosphere, and as a result, the Terps were ranked number 13 via the AP poll that came out on Monday. And so I was like, damn, 13th in the country. Who would have thought? Not me. But then they lost to Wisconsin on the road yesterday for their first loss, and I was disappointed more so because I was like, when I saw what day the game was when they were going to play Wisconsin, I was like, oh, crap, it's on a Tuesday. They're probably going to lose that game. I'm not going to be able to come on the podcast and say they're 9-0. It was disappointing because I figured they would lose this one. They were 2-point underdogs. Wisconsin, not only is Wisconsin good, and not only is that a tough environment, I didn't realize Wisconsin does this. They play undefeated teams and they beat them. Like they're like
they beat Kentucky in the tournament or something.
Yes, they did beat. I wasn't even referring to that, but like teams that come in like 8-0, they've beaten them 7 straight times.
Oh.
Like they this is just what they do. They interrupt. I'm not going to say a perfect season because there's no way the Terps are going 38-0 or whatever. But they give people their first L, and the Terps were no exception to that. And honestly, 8-1 at this point, didn't think that would happen. I didn't think we would beat St. Louis or Miami. I didn't think that we would beat Illinois at home. This obviously being what I expected at the beginning of the season, not necessarily what had developed when we played Illinois. Going into that night, I thought we would win just based on what we had seen. But this team's definitely better than expected. but it's still flawed, right? Like it's the reality of a new coach. He's using the old coach's players, and I promise this isn't meant to throw shade at Turgeon, but the players last year were on the team and they didn't make the NIT. So coming into a season with that as your core, you don't expect much from that team. But Kevin Willard's got these guys playing really good, gritty basketball. He's got them playing team basketball to a much greater extent than they ever had before. And they look like the real deal. There's just some roster shortcomings. And frankly, the Terps deserve to be ranked 13th, but they also weren't a team that was going to stay ranked 13th, right? Like, you can win some games early in the season, but also have reality checks hit you. And the Wisconsin game was a reality check that this isn't going to be just smooth sailing. You're going to win every game except for maybe one or two. There's tough competition in the Big Ten, and the Terps have some limitations. They have a lack of depth in the front court, and that caught up to them when Julian Reese had a bad game and got in foul trouble. They simply didn't have an answer for being able to score in the post, and it resulted in a lot of one-on-one play, and it didn't work out too well for the Terps because Wisconsin defended it really well. So I'm still excited about the way the season's going. Maryland's got a couple of tough games coming up. They're playing number 7 Tennessee on Sunday at the Barclays Center.
Oh.
Yeah, so I can't remember if it's Barclays Center or if it's MSG, but it's in New York. I was considering going to that, but I can't go. So shout out to Sasquatch for going up there to see the Terps play. But I'm anticipating they probably won't win that game too, because you're playing the number 7 team in the country, right? Like, they're supposed to be better than you. So even if they come away with a loss there, and they'll probably fall down the rankings, but they'll still be ranked, 8-2 ain't too bad. Like, this team looks like they're going to go to the tournament. I didn't think that was going to happen, so happy to see it. And for any of you out there that even casually support the Terps, go to some games, man. They're fun. Watch them on TV. This is a fun, exciting team. Like, I know it's been a while since we could say that, but this is a good time watching the Terps again. So get with it. Also, shout out again to the students for being appropriately vulgar and making people offended on Twitter.
You're saying somebody was offended on Twitter? Oh, my goodness.
Several people, in fact.
Oh, what happened this time?
There were some F-bombs chanted at some folks. I actually don't really know why they were yelling F you at this guy. I don't know what he did.
Like, at
he probably didn't do anything.
Court or somebody in the stands?
At somebody, one of the Illini, like one of the players. Like, I understood why they were.
He deserves it for being an Illini.
I guess that's true. Yeah. In the moment.
You go to another school, and you have the audacity to come to our house
and play basketball against the Terps. Yeah,
you deserve to have some F-bombs thrown your way.
That's how I see it too.
They used to deserve to have batteries thrown at them wrapped in newspaper, but we decided collectively that they didn't actually deserve that anymore.
We've evolved from that. Yeah. All right, so that's all I got for college hoops. Unless you guys have seen anything interesting relating college basketball, other than Evan, obviously your boys getting that win. Nope. I'm going to take your silence as a no. So let's move on to college football. Let's start with the championship weekend was last weekend, which kind of didn't feel like it even happened because this wasn't exciting.
No.
Right? Like, we there was one of two ways this was going to go. Either USC was going to lose and Ohio State was going to replace them, or USC was going to win and Ohio State wasn't going to replace them in the top 4. Well, sure enough, USC lost, in fact, got dropped by Utah, and Ohio State replaced USC in the top 4 because TCU lost to Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. They came into that game ranked 3rd. They're still ranked 3rd.
They sure are.
Michigan beat, they played Purdue?
Purdue.
Yeah, they beat Purdue. That was expected. Georgia beat LSU like a drum. That was also expected. But even if those teams had lost, they would have stayed right where they were. So the most inconsequential championship week I think I've ever seen. Like, just the fact that TCU lost that game and had nothing to worry about. But that's just the way it fell this year. But so as a result, we've got Georgia playing Ohio State. What bowl is that, Evan?
That is the Peach Bowl.
Okay, so that'll be in Atlanta.
Yes.
And then Michigan is playing TCU and that is the
Fiesta Bowl.
They play that in Indianapolis? Arizona, okay. So not really much of a... That's not a home field advantage at all for Michigan. In fact, that's closer to Fort Worth for sure. But
the championship game is in Los Angeles at the Rams Chargers.
At SoFi Arena?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that should be fun. I already said this on the chat, so I won't make you hear it again, Evan. We'll move on to some other information.
Well, I mean, I want to mention the other New Year's Six bowls.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So the very appropriately named this year Capital One Orange Bowl features Tennessee and Clemson.
The Capital One Orange Bowl?
Oh.
Used to be the FedEx Orange Bowl for a long time.
Yeah, that didn't make a whole lot of sense either.
Well, there's the Discover Orange Bowl.
That at least made sense because like Discover's logo is an orange circle.
Oh. Okay. Got the Sugar Bowl, Alabama, and Kansas State.
Is it still the All-State Sugar Bowl?
Yes.
Okay.
The Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic.
Why is it the Classic?
USC and Tulane. So, and finally the Rose Bowl game, which I'm sure is presented by somebody. Utah and Penn State.
Granddaddy of them all.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Ohio State for sneaking into the playoff because that's the big reason why Penn State is playing in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State would have been there had they not been given access to an ass whooping by Georgia coming up. And so as a result, Maryland moved up the ladder and actually got to go to a bowl game that doesn't suck. They're playing in the Duke's Mayo Bowl in Charlotte.
What would have been their bowl game if they hadn't made this one?
Maybe like the Pinstripe Bowl again, or the Quick Lane Bowl, or the Military Bowl. Pinstripe Bowl is obviously in Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
Quick Lane Bowl is in Detroit. Not really thrilled about going there. And the Military Bowl, I think, is played at FedEx Field.
Yeah.
So
I thought the Military Bowl was at Navy.
I don't know why I thought it was at FedEx Field.
I think it was at one time.
Okay. Well,
it
either
was
way,
at RFK once.
Either way, it's local. It's around here. But Maryland is not playing there. They're playing in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And your boy's going. So I'm going to drive down to Charlotte with Sasquatch and maybe Evan.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And we might make a stop down to Carowinds, which would be the real reason to go. I don't really care about the football game. If Carowinds is open and Fury's open, I'm going to go ride Fury. But
Carowinds is open from 5 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. on Saturday, December 31st.
So on New Year's Eve.
Yes. It's probably going to be packed.
I'm sure it will be, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Still go there. So anyway, that's what's going on with the Terps. Happy to see them in a bowl game that doesn't suck. It would have been cool if they were in Phoenix as well. I don't know if I would have made that trip.
The Cheez-It Bowl or something?
Is the Cheez-It Bowl in Phoenix?
I don't know.
I thought it was something that wasn't as lame as the Cheez-It Bowl. But it doesn't matter.
The Fiesta Bowl. They're not making that.
No, we are not making that. They don't allow teams that lose 5 games to play in that one. So before we got a couple more college football topics before we get to the meat and potatoes of the show. Heisman finalists were announced.
Mm-hmm. That award is given this weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's usually the same day as the Army-Navy game, which is this Saturday.
Yes.
So
it'll probably be that evening. So 4 finalists, all quarterbacks, which is annoying. I hate that. Caleb Williams from USC, and we are familiar with his oeuvre around here.
Yeah, DeMatha had to play him for 4 years.
Yeah,
we had a traumatic experience in a WCAC championship game that involved him.
I remember I watched that, and I was offended.
Too, and
it hurt my soul.
Offended?
Yes, I was offended. Give up a Hail Mary to lose the title.
What?
Yeah, right after we returned a kickoff for a touchdown to take the lead.
It was just nauseating. It wasn't very good Hail Mary defense, to be honest. I didn't mean to throw shade.
Yeah,
but...
Donald returned a kick for a touchdown, and then Caleb Williams did that to us.
Oh, my God. Just unbelievable. Anyway, C.J. Stroud of Ohio State. Max, is it Duggan or Dugan?
Duggan.
Like
Sir Cadogan.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. From Texas Christian University. And the most ridiculous finalist in the history of finalists, Stetson Bennett the fourth, right? Is he the fourth?
Mm-hmm.
God, it just sounds like entitlement. From University of Georgia, has for some reason been included here, even though he is legitimately a bad quarterback. Like, I don't understand. Like, I know that Herndon Hooker got hurt.
Hendon.
What did I call him?
Herndon.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. All right, anyway, I know he got hurt, but he was the best player in college football for the vast majority of the season, and I think he only missed one game. So, what's the deal? Why couldn't they include him?
I literally had not heard of this guy until today because one of my journalism students he's writing an article for the Stagline about the Heisman candidates and basically making a case for each of them and then picking who he thinks should win. And when they announced I guess he was the third guy in voting so far or something like that.
He's not even the third Stetson Bennett. Right?
But when he was announced, I guess he was like, really?
Yeah.
So he wasn't sure how to handle that because he basically said to me, I legitimately don't know how I can make an argument for him. And I was like, well, then don't.
Yeah. You don't have to.
You can say that he's a ridiculous candidate. It's your article. You're giving an opinion.
Yeah, it reminds me of the year that Jameis Winston won the Heisman, and he was the clear winner. But I think Marcus Mariota was a finalist that year. But one of the finalists was A.J. McCarron, and they kept citing the fact that A.J. McCarron had won 36 games in his collegiate career. And I'm like, this isn't a lifetime achievement award.
Right.
It's about what you did this season. The only difference is that A.J. McCarron was actually legitimately pretty good. Stetson Bennett is not good. Not at all. So what's he doing here? Just because he plays with 20 NFL players on his roster and they win all the games for him, he gets to be a participant here?
Who's the other non-NFL player?
They probably got a bunch of them that don't even play yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, UGA's always got
amongst the starters. If there's 20 NFL players, there's 22 starters.
maybe.
Well, they couldn't cover against Georgia Tech, so that's how we know.
Right, so one of the defensive
one of those
backs.
corners ain't making it. Sorry to you, dude. The only reason we're even mentioning you and we don't even know your name is because Stetson Bennett sucks. So
and somehow is a Heisman finalist.
Yeah, it's
be mad at the Heisman committee, not us.
It's pretty bad. I don't get it, but like usual, there's not much contest here. Caleb Williams is going to win this award. I don't think it's much discussion, even with the not great performance he had in the championship game. It's not like Max Duggan did better. It's not like C.J. Stroud doesn't have a blowout on his resume. And, of course, we already talked about the lack of qualification for Stetson Bennett. So he's the only guy left. And he also had a brutal bad beat on that prop because I guess in college football, your rushing yards, your sack yardage lost counts as a negative on your rushing yards, which is kind of an unusual way to keep the stat.
Yeah, the NFL it's
used
on
to
your
do
passing.
it this way.
Yeah, and it's on your net passing. It's not even
right.
on your actual passing.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, and so he the over under on his rushing yards for the game was 32, and he busted a 60-yard run in the first quarter. And he had 73 rushing yards, and then he just kept getting sacked. And he got sacked 8 times. Jeez. And the last one finally put him under, and I was just like, that's just brutal.
This was against Georgia Tech?
No, this was
in the championship
LSU?
game.
Oh.
No, this was Caleb Williams against Utah.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Stetson Bennett.
No, he's talking Caleb Williams.
No, I'm done making fun of Stetson Bennett. I don't He's going to be a 2-time national champion, and he's 27 years old, too, which I also think is
keep
crap.
making fun of Stetson Bennett. It's fine.
I also think it's crap that people that old get to play college football. I'm sorry.
What is this, Brandon Weeden 2.0?
Yeah, it's just.
I don't even think Brandon Weeden was that old.
He was about that old. He was old.
I think he was he was a 28-year-old rookie, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was that old.
Stetson Bennett was born the same year as Lamar Jackson.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And Lamar's already won an NFL MVP.
Lamar won the Heisman in 2016. Oh my goodness.
He won the Heisman when I started my job at DeMatha.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Oh wow.
Oh my God, that puts
I think
things in
Lamar won the
perspective.
Heisman 3 jobs ago for me. During the Obama administration?
Yes, it was the Obama administration.
Has anything happened in the world since then?
A couple things.
handful of things.
Catch you up over dinner, probably.
Oh,
Maybe.
jeez.
Or not.
Maybe you don't want to be.
That too.
Okay, so last bit of news before we move to the NFL. Deion Sanders has decided to leave Jackson State University to take the job at Colorado. And that's led to some conversation about things, if you will. And I know Corey said on the chat that he thinks that that's not even a lateral move, it's a backwards move. And I disagree because the money ain't no lateral move and certainly isn't a backwards move. He's making 13 times as much money as he was.
13
Oh, really?
times?
Yeah, well,
Okay, well then, I wasn't digging that deep to see
Yeah.
like the money. That's fair. Like
It's-
I rescind my comments. Like if that's where the money is, you got to go where the money is. Like get paid.
Yeah,
And,
it's-
like we will always say, get paid.
Yeah, it's
Coach Prime's got to get paid.
Yes.
it's HBCU funding versus Power 5 college funding. So, yeah, he was making I think $375,000 a year to coach at Jackson State, and he's making about $5 million a year to coach at Colorado. So,
Well, there you go then.
yeah, big increase in money. We get why Deion made the move. It would have been really cool if he had just kept this thing going at Jackson State for like a generation, but we also know that Deion didn't get into this to be a small-time college coach. He wants to probably coach in the NFL. And in order to coach in the NFL, you probably have to coach in a Power 5 conference.
Do you though? Because like I feel like if Jeff Saturday can just we can get into that conversation too. But if Jeff Saturday can just jump from being an analyst on ESPN, Prime has been an analyst for many years on NFL Network.
But Jeff Saturday was hired on an interim basis. There's no guarantee that he's going to be on board.
Sure, but you still get your foot in the door, and once you're in there as an interim head coach, like you could, even if you have to jump over and be a coordinator somewhere else after that, like doors are going to be open.
But the thing is, though, Deion Sanders as a coordinator, that's not what Deion's going to want to do. Deion's prime time, baby. Mm-hmm. This was his in to coaching where he didn't have to be somebody's assistant. Right? Like, this was an opportunity at Jackson State where they were like, okay, you're going to bring profile to our school. And he did, and he won a lot there, and Jackson State gave him the support. It was a mutually beneficial relationship. Again, for the culture, it would have been really cool if he had just, made HBCUs this awesome football thing that looked like he was going to do. But the money's the money, and you can't hate on a man for going to collect $5 million instead of $375,000. And also, I'm figuring Colorado's going to get good pretty quickly because Deion obviously can recruit, not just because he has the charisma of being primetime, but he also has a track record now. He has a pedigree at Jackson State, turning that program into a team that dominated the SWAC and being able to recruit at the highest levels. So he's going to be able to do that and have more resources at his disposal at Colorado. So I'm imagining this is going to be a pretty quick turnaround for, I think Colorado went 1-11 this year. They were awful. But Colorado has a history of being good sometimes. So
yeah, they have had good seasons here and there.
yeah, so it's not like he can't make that team good and at least interesting. It's kind of interesting though because, for one thing, Deion hasn't had to deal with a whole lot of losing because he immediately successful at Jackson State, and there's going to be some losing to come with that transition.
There's definitely going to be some losing early on at Colorado.
And then you also
not good right now.
And it also feels like he got in the wrong place because the Pac-12 is turning back into the Pac-10 real soon. UCLA and USC are both heading to the Big Ten of all places, which is cool for me. I'll make a road trip out to LA just to watch the Terps get their asses kicked in football. That's fine. Go to Magic Mountain.
Yeah.
So
theme parks out there.
Oh yeah.
Go to Knott's.
Yeah, go to Knott's. But anyway, yeah. So wish Deion the best. Obviously, get that money, but still kind of sad. I feel a little sadness. I thought it was really cool that
Well, and that's really,
Jackson State was poaching players from Florida State.
Well, that's really why I felt initially like this was at best a lateral move, and probably not even that. Is really that like he has Jackson State now has a profile, and it's largely because of him, but they have a profile. Colorado doesn't have a profile.
No.
They've had like you said, they have a history of being good sometimes.
Yes.
That's not a profile.
Yeah.
Like
Well, to get 5 downs, then they're good.
As far as sure, it's a Power 5 school.
Yeah.
But it literally barely meets the definition. Like, it's a Power 5 school because it is in a Power 5 conference, not because it's worthy by itself of that title.
Colorado
and from that standpoint,
Yeah.
I view this as at best a lateral move, but absolutely the money's the money.
I mean, I'll go pretty much anywhere if they're going to pay me 13 times my salary. Like, that's an easy one. Colorado is in 12th place out of 12 in the 5th place out of 5 Power 5 conferences.
Like I said,
So
barely meets the definition.
Yeah, they are there in name only. There are several schools that are outside the Power 5 that are significantly better at football than they are. So
Probably like Jackson State.
yeah, Jackson State probably whooped their ass.
Yeah.
But now Jackson State's players are all going to Colorado, so yeah,
right.
at least the good ones are.
Yeah.
So
The Buffs, their one win was a home game in overtime against Cal, who
Cal
their
lost to
record
them?
was just as bad.
What happened to Cal?
Cal was 2-7 in conference.
Cal's supposed to be good at football sometimes. They had Radges
And Kyle Bowler.
and Jared Goff.
Yeah.
And Javid Best, who threw up green slime against the Terps.
Goodness
It was
gracious.
weird. Like, he got drilled. I still watch that YouTube video sometimes. I don't know how that man is still alive. Like he looked like
Best was kind
Then
of
he had all
almost
those
good for a little while
concussions
with the
in the
Lions.
NFL.
yeah, he didn't have the most luck in the NFL with all
he
the
did
injuries
not.
there. Also, playing for the Lions didn't help. That doesn't help.
We
any.
know an all-time great who ended his career a little bit early because of
We know two.
Calvin Johnson
that's
and
right.
Barry
Yeah.
Sanders.
Yep.
All right.
All right, so
That's all I got.
let's move to the NFL. Do a little recapping of was this week 13?
It was week 13.
Wow,
No.
we are booking through
Two
this
more weeks left
season.
in the fantasy regular season.
I mean, I don't care. My season's over, so
You are. It is. You're just about locked into that bottom bracket.
can't wait to go to Waffle House, baby. Or to write Corey's recap or
Come
take
on,
the
you
SAT.
got to beat Andrew. Come on.
I would feel bad, to be honest.
I know you would feel bad. But
He's in last place every year, and then the first year he actually has to go. He actually tried this year, and it still didn't work. His draft was actually decent. He didn't do dumb stuff like he normally does. He didn't keep like George Kittle with the third overall pick when he could have gotten him in like the 4th round or something. Anyway, yeah, I would feel bad. Like I feel like there's some level of responsibility for me to take this on my shoulders and be the Sacco winner to go prove to the rest of the league.
Don't be like Kyle in the Ginger Cow episode of South Park.
Maybe I am like Kyle from the Ginger Cow episode.
Eric's gonna shave his head and he gets what was the wording of the angel that showed up to him? Like, you should shave your head and get super like righteous about this.
Yeah, I'm going to take this on as a martyr. It's not because I suck at fantasy football. It's actually because I'm just taking one for the team.
Oh,
No,
where is Alex to enjoy my reference? I don't think he's listening live tonight.
I will not act like that, but I do think it is a good point that, it's a little easier to convince everybody else to do, slightly humiliating punishments if one of the co-commissioners right out the gate has to do it. It's like, this is
I'm not gonna have to do it. I'm in the playoffs, baby.
good for you, man. I'm happy for you, but I'm not. So, I can provide a service somehow, even when my team is atrocious. Anywho's, let's talk about your Ravens, Evan. Speaking of atrocious,
Oh, yeah.
I hate your team, by the way.
Let's see. So I only put one note for the Ravens in here, and that's Lamar is hurt.
It's the only one that matters.
Yeah. So, it's when your starting quarterback gets hurt in the NFL, you're screwed. Like that's just it. Lamar was the Ravens, right? Like, I'm sure Roquan Smith's having a great year, and Marlon Humphrey's playing well, and Kevin Seitler and Tyler Linderbaum, they're all doing a great job. But like, it's the Lamar show, and when there's no Lamar, there's no Ravens. I'm sorry, like it's just, until Lamar's back on the field, I don't know that the Ravens really have a chance to win any of the games. It's not looking good. So they did beat the Broncos 10-9, mainly because the Broncos' offense is putrid. But that's really about it. So, yeah, the purple Kool-Aid has gone sour this week.
The Russell Wilson versus his bathrooms contest is still very much favoring the bathrooms.
Yes,
after another no touchdown performance. I think he had 1 the previous week and then 0 the week before that. So, I think when we first noticed this or made a comment about it in our little circle, whether it was on here or not,
he was on pace for like 11.9.
Yeah, he was right on the cusp.
But that
of
was like
clearing
including the one game that like. What happened?
He missed a game.
Yeah, he missed a game. If you like took that out and just used his averages per game that he's actually played in,
and projected to play the rest of them,
to play the rest of them, he would like just barely surpass that number. Now he's not even
anymore. He's
not even on track using that metric.
Like he's getting to the point where even if he somehow turned back into, elite Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson, where you should
start cooking good food.
I was like, okay, but you still need like 3 a week now, and you're not gonna do that. This is just, oh my god. All right, I don't want to spend too much time talking about Russell Wilson and the inept Broncos. We'll have plenty of time because I assume they play a game this week. Although we still have bye weeks at this point.
We have 6 teams on bye this week, but only one AFC team, and that's the Colts.
I hate this. Like 6 bye weeks in week 14. Give me a break, man.
We're in week 14, people. There should not be any bye week.
Yeah,
bye weeks should be limited between like weeks 4 and 12.
And there was only 2
maybe
this last
5
week.
and 12.
So why?
And there was 0 the week before.
Make it make sense. I'm glad I don't have a fantasy team to care about right now because I would be really irritated if I had a bunch of bye weeks in week 14.
I think you do have 2 bye week players in your lineup right now.
I'll get him out of there and I'll still lose, but that's fine.
Andrew has 2 bye week players that he does not have bench players to replace right now, and he didn't make any claims yesterday.
Well, he doesn't care. Maybe he should suffer then. Forget it. That whole rant I had 5 minutes ago. No, he's not trying. He gets the sacco.
He could go to a Waffle House.
He can go sit in a Waffle House for 24 hours. I'll go hang out with him for a little bit. But hey, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah. We can set up like a Google form. We can each take like an hour.
You should turn it into like a Mr. Beast video where it's like we film him and we all pop in occasionally, make it a 20-minute video, edit it down, put it on the internet, and find out what lesson Drew learned from sucking at fantasy football.
Yeah, he learned the lesson that he cannot suck at fantasy football. You need to try more.
If he had at least tried harder, his boy might have picked him up and said, I'll take one for the team and shave my head and all that stuff. But not if he's not going to try. You got to eat it at that point. Anyway.
Unintended.
Yes. In this case, you will be doing quite a bit of eating unless you just want to sit there for the entire time. Anyway, let's talk about the misery of my team at the hands of one Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. I think that's his name.
It is.
That's just, ugh.
4 names, and he's a junior?
All first names, too.
They are.
Yes.
Even Brady.
Yes.
Brady Quinn.
Brady Hoke.
Now I'm done.
No, I mean, you got Thomas Brady, and then you've got what was this second name? What was this?
Edward?
Yeah, Edward. Is there an Edward who's played quarterback in the NFL? There's Patrick Mahomes, son.
I'm sure there's been an Edward, like an Ed McMahon. That's not. I'm just kidding.
Not a football player.
Yeah. Jim McMahon was a football player.
Yes.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's move on to
Ed Too Tall Jones. Not a quarterback, but
that's true.
Football player.
Ed Reed also not a quarterback. 2 tickets to paradise. Anyway, let's talk about Brady. Just once every 10 years or so, Tom Brady plays my team, And normally I don't have any issue with Tom Brady playing my team because my team actually usually beats Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But when they don't, they lose in the stupidest way in the last 10 seconds of the game. Corey, I'm sure you remember in 2013. Maybe you don't. I don't know. The Saints went up to New England. They were 5-0. New England was struggling a bit out of the gate. Gronk was injured to start the year. Welker was in Denver. Aaron Hernandez was in prison. So, yeah, Brady didn't have anybody to throw to. And Gronk did not play that week against the Saints. And they couldn't guard Kemba Tompkins. And Brady hits him with an absolute dot in the corner of the end zone.
Yes, exactly, Evan. Who?
Yes, Kemba Tompkins. I don't even know who that is. All right, so anyway.
But it's seared into Eric's memory.
I'll never... dude,
Nobody talking about that on his deathbed.
Probably, because that was the most indecent I've ever been after I got some bad news. You saw me melt down a lot when I played COD in the early days when I sucked. Well, you heard it. If you had heard this, you probably wouldn't be friends with me. You'd probably be like, this guy's got real problems. If that was a snapshot of me, you probably would think he might have bodies in the basement that he's hiding. I was full-blown psychopathic nut job raging after that game. Dad had to call me because he was actually in New Orleans when this happened. And
your mom called your dad?
No, I was home by myself.
Oh.
I would never have acted this way if my parents were at home.
Your dad
because they would have killed me.
Your dad just knew?
Because he was watching the game and he was like, Eric, is the TV still functional at home or did you throw the remote through it? I was like, no, I didn't throw the remote through it. I almost threw the chair through it. I was furious. Just screaming, cussing, kicking stuff. Oh my God. It was a full-on temper tantrum.
Oh, dear.
And again, this is after 12 years of having no issue with Tom Brady because he never did it to my team. I had to feel it for a moment there, and I didn't like it. Did not like it. Anyway, didn't have this big of a freak out this time because the Saints suck, and the Bucs kind of suck too. And, their season's over, and, the Bucs season isn't over. But anyway, the Bucs came back from down 13 on Monday Night Football against the Saints. About 5 minutes left. Some just abysmal coaching to the point where Dennis Allen is about to be on my list for that.
Probably already deserved to be on your list for not, for still having Andy Dalton as the starting quarterback instead of Jameis Winston.
That is alarming. It's also alarming that old-ass Mark Ingram gets more passing downs than Alvin Kamara does, namely on 2nd and 9 when an obviously injured Mark Ingram, who got hurt on a previous play, catches a little dump off out of the backfield, has a clear running lane, and steps out of bounds a yard short of the first down for no reason.
Is that better or worse than Derrick Henry often being off the field on second downs?
I mean, it's all bad.
2nd and 2, 2nd and 1.
That's pretty bad. But, it's frustrating because, Ingram, limps out of the play, doesn't get the first down, and we're just, again, if you saw that play and didn't know that Ingram was injured, you would be calling the feds. You'd be saying, this guy's shaving points, because there was absolutely no reason for him not to get that first down. But he was hurt, and he was like, dude, my knee hurts. I need to get off the field as quickly as possible. I don't even know why he was out there. And then the Saints throw on 3rd and 1, and they don't get it, and they have to punt. And I'm just like, they kicked a field goal up 10 when it was 3rd and short, or 4th and short. You kicked a field goal to make a 2-possession game a 2-possession game. Color me shocked that the greatest quarterback of all time, who always does this to people, somehow turned a 13-point deficit into a 1-point lead. I can't believe it happened. And what are you doing? Why isn't Alvin Kamara on the field? What do you have against him? He's great. He's the best player on your team. Why isn't he on the field on every critical play in a game that you absolutely had to win to stay in this ridiculously bad division? Because the Saints could have been in the
We
race.
fumbled twice last week, Eric.
I don't care.
Can't use him anymore.
Then bench him entirely. What? I just... Yeah, Dennis Allen's... He's got to go. He's got to go. One and done. Right up there with Nat Hackett PI. Gotta go. Just get him out. Tired of him. Tired of him. Let's talk about some other people that suck. Zach Taylor, he sucks. But Joe Burrow saved him. Again.
Joe Burrow's good.
Joe Burrow is
No,
good.
Travis Kelce saved him with his butterfingers.
That's true.
Got to be kidding me. How are you just going to grasp the ball when you're in plus territory with the lead? And you're like, oh, well, just put it down on the ground right quick. Unbelievable. You've
Put
got
down the
to
ground real quick, make it sound like he's like going to tie his shoes mid-play.
Well, just drop this ball here. He was fighting for extra yards, and,
Well, hold on to the ball. I
Yeah.
don't care.
We've seen this happen so many times where players are unnecessarily fighting for extra yards, and
got
they
a
get the
first
ball
down.
ripped out. Yeah, exactly. He already had the first down, and not a great move for him. Tyler Boyd dropped like the easiest touchdown pass of his life. Like that was, I can't believe that happened. Like
It was Marquise Brown-esque.
Yeah, I thought
Hit him
Tyler
in the
Boyd was
head.
supposed to be really good when both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase were on the field.
well, he was good enough to get wide open. He just didn't catch the ball. Joe Burrow had like the classic meme face. Like Joe Burrow is one of the calmest, most even-keeled dudes you'll see on a football field, and the fact that he reacted, he was like what?
Nobody can see that.
Yeah, well, Corey can. And, he was just like, he couldn't believe it. And I was like, wow, they're not going to win this game at all, are they? And, he had Zach Taylor running this goofy sweep on 4th and 1 instead of using his 6'4", pretty athletic quarterback to just sneak it. And I'm just like, this is why I hate you. Like, this is why I question whether or not you actually have integrity. You think you're bigger than the job you have. And it drives me crazy. But then, so it's 2nd and 4. There's 2:05 on the clock, and they opt to throw the ball, even though Pirine is gashing the Chiefs' defense. And since Burrow didn't want to throw the ball and have it fall incomplete before it got to the 2-minute warning, he held on to it too long, and he got sacked. So now it's 3rd and 11, and you're in a position where you're going to have to give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. And then Burrow drops back to pass, pressure in his face, and just throws a sublime pass for a first down conversion. Saved Zach Taylor's ass again. Won the game. Your boy had it. It was the only thing I had this week that was worthwhile. I had this one. Didn't have anything else. Told y'all the Bengals were going to win, and they did. But, man, I'm excited about the Bengals. They're fun. They're back. I think they're in the mix. Like, they are... Clearly, they have no issue being able to beat the Chiefs. Like, they've beaten them 3 times in a row, including at Arrowhead.
3 times in this calendar year.
Yes, and including in a playoff game. So they're clearly not afraid of the challenge, and Joe Burrow's balling out. I think the Bengals are going to win this division, especially given the fact that the Ravens are now in trouble with Lamar being hurt and probably going to miss several weeks. And it looks like they're going to be – I would predict them to be the 3rd seed in the AFC. And so the only question is who's going to be the 2 seed that they potentially would play in the second round, and that's between the Chiefs and the Bills. Right? Like, I don't know if the Bills are going to hold to the 1 seed because they've got some tough games left, whereas the Chiefs are on easy streak because they get to play Denver twice. So, like the Bills have to play the Jets again, who are scrappy. They have to play the Dolphins again, who we know are pretty good and have already beaten them, as have the Jets. And they have to go to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. So they've got some potential games they could lose on their schedule, but I don't think it matters as much because I think the Bengals, they've got the ability to beat anybody anywhere except for the only thing that I could see tripping the Bengals up where I'm like, okay, they're not going to win that game, is if they get a fully healthy, clicking Bills team in Buffalo. I don't think they would beat them. But the Bills haven't been clicking. They're not going to be fully healthy because Von Miller's out. So that means the Bengals could go back to the Super Bowl. Like, that wouldn't shock me at this point.
That'd be pretty fun.
I could get into that.
Eagles versus Bengals?
I wouldn't be into that.
Evan's not feeling that.
No.
Why aren't you feeling that, Evan?
Because my team's in the AFC.
But your team's toast.
Yeah, but
So,
still.
So does that mean you have to inherently root for anybody in the NFC?
I don't want to root for the Bengals.
They are in your division, but you like Joe Shiesty.
But, if you would stop pounding my team, that would be great.
Y'all beat them this year
Yes, barely.
because of Zach Taylor.
I don't even remember.
He ran the Philly special
Oh, okay.
and then tried to shovel pass into like a horde of Ravens on 4th down. This is when I developed a list. It was because of that performance by Zach Taylor that I was like, I'm going to write down every coach that I absolutely despise at my core. And he's obviously one of them.
Deservedly so.
Yes.
I don't care for Zach Taylor as a head coach either.
So speaking of injured quarterbacks, one guy is hurt, and we don't necessarily think his team is toast, like Evan supposed about his team, the Ravens. Jimmy Garoppolo broke his foot. Jimmy Garoppolo also sucks. He's being replaced by somebody named Brock Purdy.
Yeah, Mr. Irrelevant is suddenly very relevant.
I'm excited that a Mr. Irrelevant is actually getting some time. Like Simmons was talking about it. I already forgot who it was. The greatest Mr. Irrelevant of all time, and I think it's a kicker or a punter. And maybe Brock Purdy's gonna have a coming out party here.
Coming out Purdy, if you will.
There you go. You can go with that. That's nice job.
Yeah.
I will say this is. I guess we'll get into this, but do we think that Brock Purdy can do something?
Yes, because Jimmy G could do something. People are freaking out like the 49ers are sunk without Jimmy G. Like, Jimmy G's not good. So you replace a bad quarterback with
This might be
probably bad quarterback.
This might be the second time this season that the 49ers get an upgrade at quarterback due to an injury to their starting quarterback.
Probably, yeah.
Well, there is something to be said though, because it's a non-small sample size at this point. Kyle Shanahan hasn't won diddly with any quarterback not named Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes, Jimmy G sucks, but we've seen a bunch of backups come in. We've seen a first-round pick start. We've seen, we have a decent sample size of, you can't just fill in at the quarterback position and stay winning with this team. So I'm not necessarily going to say that Brock Purdy is going to come out here and just do the same things Jimmy Garoppolo was doing and they're going to continue to win.
It's probably going to be better.
It might be better, but my point is it's inexplicable that this is the case, but it hasn't been better with other quarterbacks that actually have looked pretty good. The team just doesn't win when Jimmy G's not out there. It doesn't make any sense because it's not like the offense falls off a cliff. They just collectively forget how to play football.
We're going to invent, the opposite of Ewing theory. It's going to be Jimmy G theory.
It's like, yeah, you watch a guy who is terrible at football. Like, you watch him be bad.
But all he does is win.
Yeah, and they don't win without him, But I will also say, moving on to the next topic, a stinging indictment of one Baker, Reagan, Mayfield is the fact that the 49ers had zero interest in acquiring him.
Ooh.
Yeah, the team that picked him up is already out of they're
thoroughly out of
they're
it.
done.
Yeah. Mayfield's out there to get beat up behind their bad offensive line so that the people they actually care about don't.
Yeah.
Right? Like, even their backup
And
quarterback.
to throw to people not named Cooper Kupp.
Who's left? Van Jefferson?
Yeah, Van Jefferson is pretty much it.
Yes.
What happened
Him
to
and Tyler Higbee.
Yeah, but what happened to
Allen Robinson got hurt last week.
Okay, he's injured. Okay.
Yeah, he got hurt last week or the week before.
But see,
And he had no impact at all.
yeah, see,
when he left,
I didn't even
right?
know he was hurt because I hadn't heard his name at all. So I was like, is he just gone? Like, what's up with that?
He was one of the leaders in
boy,
red zone
Corey.
targets, and he was actually one of the leaders in red zone efficiency at the wide receiver position. Much to my surprise when I found out, because
okay.
what has he done this season? It doesn't seem like he's done anything.
Where was he in the
But
rankings
to be
in terms
fair,
of production?
they hadn't really.
How many red zone trips did they have?
Yeah, they haven't had a lot of red zone trips. So even if he catches 2 touchdown passes on 4 red zone trips, that's pretty good efficiency.
Yeah, but you only made 4 red zone trips in 8 weeks, so that's not great. So anyway, Baker Mayfield picked up by the Rams.
Yeah.
Again, he gets traded to the Panthers, which wasn't a promising situation. You had a dead man walking as a coach. You did have Christian McCaffrey early in the season. you did have DJ Moore, but Baker Mayfield has shown an impressive ability to not link up with talented receivers.
DJ Moore has been so much better with PJ Walker at quarterback,
And
or even Sam Darnold.
He was better with Sam
quarterback
Darnold too, yeah.
than he was at the beginning of the season with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, it's just like, how is this happening? It doesn't make any sense.
Christian McCaffrey is doing pretty big things with Jimmy Garoppolo, who should be a worse quarterback than Baker Mayfield, but is not.
To be fair, Christian McCaffrey is also in a run-heavy system.
It's in a run-heavy system with a lot
yeah.
better, position players around him.
Yeah, better offensive
He's got
players,
a really
yeah.
good tight end that the Panthers don't have. He's got 2 good wide receivers. The Panthers barely have one.
Yeah, and he's also got a better coach who's not going to get fired. Not great for Baker, but like normally I would say, man, it sucks he's not getting a chance on a team that's actually functional, but all 32 had a shot on him.
He doesn't deserve a chance on a team that has a shot.
Obviously not, because again, all 32 had a shot at him, and like it's not like the Rams got him because they were high on the waiver wire. They were the only team to put in a claim. So,
Tell me the Giants couldn't put in a claim for him over Danny Pennies.
They're not going to take Danny Pennies out, though, because regardless of what you think about his ability, they've been winning. Yeah,
exactly.
And he can run, right? Like that's the thing. It's like he's not a very good thrower. I don't think anybody really believes in him as a drop-back passer, but they've taken advantage of the fact that he can move. Baker can't move like that.
The Ravens signed Brett Hundley instead of Baker Mayfield this week. So there's that.
I thought Huntley was already on your roster.
No, there's Tyler Huntley was quarterback 2, and then off the street they signed Brett Hundley.
Oh, Hundley.
He was the former Packers backup, right?
Yes, the Ravens went up to Green Bay and rolled the Packers because Ron was hurt, and they had Hundley. Brock Purdy, by the way, a Iowa State Cyclone, Corey.
Yep.
There is the theory, though, that teams that have black starting quarterbacks prefer not to have white backups because racist fans tend to get all excited about putting in the white guy in favor of the black guy when he struggles. And this does happen. Like, inferior white quarterbacks do get a lot of fan love when they're the backup to a black quarterback who's struggling. And if you've
never even thought of that.
If you've noticed, the Ravens, since they've had Lamar as a starter, they've always had a black backup quarterback. They had RG3, and they had and now they have Tyler Huntley. Yes, and Brett Hundley is also black.
Yes.
Russell Wilson's backup for a long time was Tavares Jackson, and then it was Geno Smith.
Oh.
Right, so like this is a thing that has it's been
Who's
brought
Mahomes' backup?
Well, Mahomes is Mahomes, so I think he's good. It was Chad Henne. Is it still Chad Henne?
It was.
Yeah. But like this is something that was brought to my attention. I was like, that sounds crazy. And then I actually looked at it. I was like, that does happen a lot. It seems the teams do go out of their way to make sure that happens. And for reasons like we saw with the Dallas Cowboys, when Dak was struggling week 1, got hurt, Cooper Rush came in, didn't really do anything, but the team won some games. And you had Jerry Jones saying, yeah, we kind of have a quarterback controversy here. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't know. Dak goes back out there as soon as he's healthy. What are you talking about? Jeez. Okay. So I think that does it for our recap. We'll talk about some pick'em situations here.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So congratulations to James Daly, who had 10 points this week. He won the fan contest and cooked all of us.
Yeah, he did.
Corey led the way with us with a 9-6 record. Evan finished at second to go 8-7, and I went 7-8 because I suck. But I suck as much as Evan because we are now tied for second or third, depending on your perspective. And Corey is back up to 5 wins after I had cut into your lead by, I was within 3, I think,
yeah,
but you picked
were.
up 2. So Corey's back up 5. So we still got a shot because we know how this goes. You can easily have an ugly week.
I made up 6 points on Evan in 1 week a few weeks back.
Yeah.
He was up by 3, and then I was up by 3.
Yeah, so it could happen because Evan was ahead for most of the year and then not. So, never know. So, yeah, shout out to James for that. Lone Wolf picks. Actually, I'll shout out these other guys too. James Daly leads the fan contest with 89 points. Drew and Sean are currently tied for second in that race with 83 apiece. So let's do some lone wolf recap. Corey was alone in picking the Packers to beat their 4.5-point spread versus Chicago. I'm still so mad about that. Like, just tackle the guy. They're just trying to run out the clock. How do you let them score?
Hey, don't fade the pack for that 1 week. Don't fade the pack this week either, because they're on bye.
Maybe you do fade the pack this week. You don't want to bet on them.
No, you don't want to bet on them. That's true. But you also don't want to bet against them.
Can't bet against them. All right, so
Can't bet on them.
unless you're picking lines for like next week, that'd be weird. Anyway, Corey was also correct in picking the Saints to cover the 3.5-point line versus Tampa Bay. I'm actually surprised. I thought Evan picked that one too, but I guess not. Nope. I was alone in picking the Vikings to cover their 3-point spread against the Jets. Got lucky as hell because the Vikings were trying to blow that one. And I also picked the Bengals to cover the 2.5-point spread against the Chiefs. Like I said, that's the only thing I can pat myself on the back on. I was on that one.
You also got lucky there, too. Kelsey grassing the ball. You've got to be kidding me. It's unbelievable.
The Bengals won the game outright.
That wasn't luck. Eric predicted that exact outcome. I'm just kidding.
Also, okay, we can trade luck here if we want to say Kelsey fumbling the ball is, oh no, that's impossibly bad luck, versus Tyler Boyd having the ball hit him in the face for an easy touchdown. So you give and you get.
I guess.
Yeah, you guess.
Yeah.
All right.
And Evan was alone picking the 49ers to beat their 4-point spread against Miami.
Yes, and they did that quite easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To
the point that, a week after Tua came out in the third quarter because they were winning by so much, they benched him again early
because they were getting their asses whooped.
Yeah.
He was literally getting a beating. Like, he was taking a lot of hits. Also turned the ball over quite a bit.
His conditioning might be going down not playing these fourth quarters.
I think he'll be fine.
I think so too.
All right, so now we're going to do our eliminated team thing. So for those of you who are first-time listeners, hopefully a lot of you, what we do is every week, starting with week 1, running through the entire season, we eliminate one team from the playoffs, meaning we are saying that team will not make the postseason. The catch is that we cannot pick the same team multiple times throughout the year, and we also can't pick the same team as a fellow co-host. So in order to adjudicate that, we have order based off of how we did the previous week. And since Corey won the week, again, Corey gets to pick first. And so Corey has eliminated the Giants, Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Washington Commanders, the Houston Texans, the Detroit Lions, the Las Vegas Raiders. It's hard to read these sometimes. It's like, who are you? Cleveland Browns, Chicago Bears, Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars, Arizona Cardinals, and last week eliminated the Los Angeles Rams. Corey, who you got this week?
This week, there were two teams really that I was between. I've eliminated 8 NFC teams already, which means I can only eliminate one more. And I want to wait on that. So I was between 2 AFC teams. Both of them have been eliminated by both of you already. But I'm going to keep it simple, stupid. I'm not going to try and get cute this week, even though I have the opportunity to try and trip you guys up. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I should have done it a long time ago. I'm going to put the pin in the Denver Broncos. They are 3-9. They are thoroughly cooked.
I mean, the Broncos are only in 15th place in the AFC, so.
So maybe they could actually make it.
Didn't they trade their first round pick as a part of the Russ deal?
Yes, to the
Seahawks?
Seahawks.
Yeah, just like the somebody else has.
Saints and the Eagles have a similar situation.
Yes, the Saints. Whatever. I'm talking about them. All right, so Evan, since you finished in second place this week, you have eliminated the Houston Texans, the New York Jets, the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Washington Commanders, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Detroit Lions, the Denver Broncos, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Green Bay Packers, the LA Rams, the Chicago Bears, and the Indianapolis Colts. Who do you got this week?
I mean, I've been going back and forth the whole time we've been talking, honestly. And let's see. What? Give me the Saints. They got 9 losses. It's time.
Yeah, I'm curious as to who Corey was eyeing to potentially trip us up, because there's no way either you could have tripped me up, even with me picking in third, because I've got an easy target.
Indeed.
I've got 2 easy targets. But
Oh, we're thinking of them.
Anyway, so I am picking third. I have eliminated, much to my chagrin, the Seattle Seahawks, the Atlanta Falcons, the Chicago Bears, the New York Jets, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Denver Broncos, the Carolina Panthers, the Detroit Lions, the Houston Texans, the New Orleans Saints, the Cleveland Browns, and the Green Bay Packers. And I am going to squash the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh. Okay.
So I am the only one that's eliminated the Packers so far.
I eliminated them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Before you did.
I didn't notice that. Okay.
But now there's a couple of NFC teams that both of you have eliminated who I have not, and I can only eliminate one more. I have not eliminated the Packers yet, and I have not eliminated the Saints yet.
You've eliminated both the Giants and the Commies.
I have.
That's tough.
They're both still over 50% playoff probability according to Football Outsiders.
Yeah.
They're under 60%. So
Yes. And the Seahawks, if they had blown that game to the Rams, that would have changed their playoff projection quite a bit too.
yeah, I need another tie between Washington and the Giants next week.
That's right. They played
Another tie. Like the fantasy baseball this season. There were 2 ties between the same 2 teams.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened. It was me and Corey Fronton both times.
Yep.
It was ridiculous.
If the Commanders and the Giants tie again, the next one, the last 3 games that have ended in a tie in the NFC East will be between those 2 teams.
Really?
Yes.
What was the other?
The last time the 2 NFC East teams tied was the Commanders and the Giants, and it was back in I want to say it was 97 or something, or maybe it was 07. It's been a long time.
It wasn't 07 because, yeah.
So it must have been 97.
All right.
Something like that.
Whatever. All right, so before we move on to our picks for this week, we'll do a little best and worst. Per Football Outsiders quick reads, the best quarterback of the week was Corey's boy, Jalen Hurts,
Oh, yeah.
who has been spectacular this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a repeat winner for the worst, Kyle Allen.
He was so bad that Davis Mills, the neck, is going to be starting again this week for the Texans.
I don't know why the neck wasn't starting in the first place. He's always been better than Kyle Allen. That's part of the reason why I gave the Texans a little bit of life with my picks. I'm like, they might be able to cover that. The neck isn't bad. Then the neck's not playing. I'm like, okay. He's also going to be permanently called the neck. He could somehow turn into a Hall of Famer and say, "Hey, the neck!" His bust is going to be insane. I want him to make the Hall of Fame.
It's going to be the tallest bust.
Yeah, his neck's gonna be look like Drew Brees after that hit. My goodness. All right, so the best running back by total DYAR, that includes receiving and rushing and passing, if you want to throw some of that in there. Tony Pollard was the top guy. Derrick Henry was the worst running back. Who did the Titans play this week? I don't even remember.
No, they play Jacksonville this coming week. Don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
The Titans played the... Wow, I can't even remember. I'm going to look right now.
Okay, well, while Corey's looking that up, I'll tell you who the best rushing running backs were, which were the same guys, Tony Pollard and Derrick Henry. So there you go. So
it was the Eagles.
Okay, so Derrick Henry struggled against the Eagles. The Eagles did not struggle against the Titans, though. And then the best and worst pass catcher of the week, repeat, Corey's boy, again, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Is he on your fantasy team?
He's in my DeMatha fantasy team.
Okay.
I unfortunately did not keep him. I maybe should have kept him in our main league.
I think you're doing okay.
I'm doing okay. Yeah. He's on Anthony's team this year.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is a repeat winner. And then the worst was Zay Jones, who played in the same game.
And who Evan started this
Who's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, Evan started him, and...
it doesn't sound like that went too well.
It did not. Yeah, no, it did not.
I know there's a difference
Evan got the Hugh Jackson Award for that decision to start him instead of Alan Lazard.
I know that there's a difference between fantasy football and reality football, but normally if you're on the worst in terms of DYAR, you probably didn't have much of a day.
Oh, and the way that we have set our scoring up, you're rewarded for making good football plays.
Yeah, first downs. Yeah,
and you get penalized for bad ones. So a lot of times, good football in real football is also going to show up in the stat sheet for our fantasy league and vice versa.
Yeah, but at least we don't ding you for targets to where you don't catch the ball. It's a 0.
I've thought about it.
I don't want to give you any ideas. I don't need that. Oh, the quarterback overthrew
I'm already
by
gonna
receiver.
be proposing a pretty big change this year.
Have you told us what that is?
I have not mentioned in the chat. I can tell you guys.
Well, yeah. Drop the sauce. You got to tell us now.
I am going to propose that we eliminate in quotes tight ends and basically replace the tight end starting position with a tight end wide receiver flex. So you can't start a running back there. It'd be a receiver flex. But the funny thing is, right now, so Travis Kelce would be the wide receiver 1 right now. He actually has more points than the wide receiver 1 in our league right now. But he has twice as many points as the tight end 2.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea being that it's just a ridiculous spread. It's way more ridiculous than any other position. The spread between
Travis Kelce's value takes a huge hit.
The spread between Travis Kelce and the tight end 2 right now is more than between just by points is bigger than I think the quarterback 1 to the quarterback 12, the wide receiver 1 to the wide receiver 7, or maybe it's quarterback 1 to quarterback 6, wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 7, and then running back 1 to running back 13 or something like that. It's ridiculous.
I'm intrigued by the idea. I'm not sure I'm in on the idea.
Apparently a lot of leagues have made this move and have not regretted it.
Okay.
I'm not intrigued just because you have to have all the positions, right?
You don't have to put a tight end on the field in the NFL.
You don't have to put a running back on the field either.
Technically you don't, but even when you run a five wide spread, you usually have a running back filling one of those 5 spots.
Usually, but you don't have to.
Yeah, no, you got to keep a tight end. Find if we're supposed to be the genius fantasy players we claim to be, find a tight end from somewhere.
Where are you going to find another Travis Kelce? They don't exist, Evan.
Well, that's why you draft him at a premium, though.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you figure it out. Jeez, just gonna change the rules because it's hard.
Well, that Evan has certainly voiced his disdain for that idea. I gave it a little bit more love than that. I'm not saying I'm into it, but I'm not a hater. Jeez, Evan. Tell us how you really feel. All right. Let's move on. Time to make some picks. Before we get to that, for your awareness, the Falcons, Bears, Packers, Colts, Saints, and Commandos are all on bye weeks. And somehow, out of those 6 teams, the only good team there is the Commandos. Who would have thought?
Yes.
The Falcons.
They're the only team that's even within 2 games of being 500 on that list.
They're above 500.
They're above 500, but the other 5 are not even within 2 games of being 500.
They're all booty butt cheeks. There's no question. Okay, so Thursday Night Football, we've got Raiders at Rams. Raiders are laying 6 as the road team. This is hilarious because the Rams are the defending Super Bowl champions and the Raiders are the Raiders, and yet the Raiders would be presumably a 12-point favorite at home. And it somehow makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? It's the Rams are just, what happened, guys? Aaron Donald's not going to play again. Cooper Kupp is not going to play probably for the rest of the year. Is Baker Mayfield going to start this game?
As far as I know, he is.
They just got him
today?
He just got there.
No, I know, but they were already saying that there's a chance that he's going to start.
See, this is proof
and
they hate him.
That's the one thing that makes me a little bit nervous with the line betting is the Raiders are going to win this game, but by how much could be a little bit rough just because, there's no film to study of Baker Mayfield playing in this offense. And a lot of times when a backup this is a little bit different than a backup quarterback coming in because a backup quarterback at least has some reps within that offense leading up and has some experience in that system. But when you don't have that film, the backup comes in and plays really well and makes us all think, oh, maybe he's going to continue to be good, and then he isn't. That's what I expect to happen with
Brock Purdy.
Yeah, with Brock Purdy. He came in and played decently, but now that there's a little bit of film on him, he's not going to play as well this week. And after that, I think he's going to suck. Like, there's a reason why he was the last player drafted in the draft. I love that a Mr. Irrelevant is becoming relevant for at least a short time. It's fun. It's cool. But he was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason.
I don't think that quite applies in this situation because Baker just got there, Monday?
Yeah.
And they're playing Thursday. Like, there's no film on Baker because he's been riding the bench behind Sam Darnold and P.J. Walker. Okay? They sent him 3,000 miles away. And they're like, oh, by the way, I know you just got off this bus, but, go play an NFL game.
Yeah.
With
no Cooper Kupp.
With no Cooper Kupp. Or offensive line.
And with Max
or defense.
2X Crosby coming after
or
you.
defense.
Yeah.
So, all that to say, back. Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
I'll lay the 6.
Yeah. Oh, this is an easy one. The Raiders. Big.
The Raiders have been playing good ball lately, too. Like, they went from 2-7 to 5-7. Yeah. Raiders.
I think it's also worth pointing out. Remember, about 6 years ago now when all those teams were trying to figure out who was going to move to Los Angeles and who wasn't. The one team that the people in Los Angeles wanted to move to Los Angeles was the Raiders.
Yes.
They're
LA's favorite team.
Yeah, there's going to be 95% Raiders fans at this game and 5% empty seats.
Facts.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the 1 p.m. slate on Sunday. We've got Jets at Bills. Jets are underdogs by 9 points.
That's too many. I got to take the points. Jets already beat the Bills once this season.
Yes, they did.
And the Bills are playing a little bit better football the last couple of weeks than what we had been seeing for the previous several weeks after their very hot start to the year. But the Jets have already beaten them once. And while I have some concerns about Mike White after his performance this past week because it was pretty bad. I mean, that's another example of a guy who's been the backup coming in looking really good because there's no film on him for the defense to go off of, and then the next week he comes back to earth. But he's still better than either of the other quarterbacks on their roster. So this team is probably better now than it was then, with the one exception being no Breece Hall. But they've still got a pretty good running game. It's not like the running game completely went away. And Garrett Wilson has emerged. Second half rookie Garrett Wilson is here, everybody. Get excited. 9 points? You kidding me? What are they doing in Vegas? Jets, for sure.
I got the Jets, too. There's going to be weather as a factor in this game. It's supposed to be rain or snow or something. The Jets' running game is better than the Bills' running game. And the Jets, I dare say the Jets have good vibes, maybe, just a little bit. Mike White is an upgrade over, I guess, White Zach Wilson.
Very white Zach Wilson.
Very white. Duke's Mayo Bowl white Zach Wilson.
Yeah. So give me the Jets. And 9 points is a lot between division rivals. 9? You kidding me? That's too many. But nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
But are they going to win the Super Bowl?
Probably.
There's some other teams in that mix now.
But
Eagles could do it. Bengals could do it. Chiefs could do it.
I will say the Bills are back on top in the AFC, which is a critical thing.
Yeah, because Travis Kelce fumbled that ball.
You are particularly upset about this, and I don't know. Why are you so mad about this?
Because I'm irrational, right? We do a sports podcast. This isn't important, yet every week for the last 5 years we've been sitting on here talking about it.
I understand that, but
this is very important.
But what specifically about the Chiefs blowing that game, according to you, is bothering you? Is it because the Bengals won?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Now I'm hip. I got you. I wasn't sure if that's what it was.
Who are you taking, Eric?
Jets. Yeah, 9 points is too many. We've already seen the Jets beat the Bills. You guys have already said it all the things. 9 points is a lot. Okay, so Browns at Bengals. Bengals are laying 6 points at home to Cleveland. I guess I'll start this off. Nasty Boy is back playing for the Browns, and it did my heart very good to see that he was absolutely horrendous, and Jacoby Brissett's better than him right now, which is just it's great. It's great because Jacoby Brissett is so much more likable, so much more deserving as a human being.
So much more likable? You mean the sexual predator isn't likable?
No. It's not on the top 5, list of character traits I like for my quarterback to have. Put it that way.
I mean, I realized that he didn't walk off of Fury because he wouldn't take off his slides, but it was still pretty bad. Yes, Slides Kid is on the same level as Deshaun Watson. Anyway,
jeez,
I hate that kid so much. Like, you don't understand.
I hope he listens to this podcast one day and is just like, wow.
Yeah, maybe he'll
I need
grow
to change
up.
my ways.
He should change his ways, or else he's not getting into heaven. Not my heaven. Not happening. All right, so I realized the Browns beat the brakes off the Bengals on Halloween. Was that a Monday night game?
I had that.
Yeah, you did have that. I give you credit for that, Evan. But I feel like, the turntables here. So I feel like the Bengals have figured things out. They're rolling. I feel like the Browns, honestly, I think the fact that Brissett's not starting for them anymore, when he had good vibes, when he was playing really good football, and now they're bringing this other guy out of cold storage, I don't think it's good. And I think the Bengals are on notice when it comes to the Browns this go round. I think the Bengals are going to beat the crap out of them.
Was it Nick Chubb or was it Amari Cooper who last week was talking about how excited he was that Deshaun Watson was back and able to start?
I wasn't paying enough attention to know. Anyway, I'm taking the Bengals.
They look kind of foolish right now.
Now they look foolish. Okay.
I'm not talking about the Browns. The Browns have looked foolish since they signed him. I'm talking specifically about Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb.
What are they supposed to say?
Whichever one of them was. I don't know. You don't need to like. You didn't need to say anything. Like, you're basically like tearing down the guy who was your quarterback for the past several weeks and actually played well.
You could have just said, well, Jacoby did his job, and now Deshaun's back, so we'll see how it goes. Boom. Cliche machine.
Yeah, there you go. That's all you had to do. Unless there's like a line that just is absolutely absurd, and this is not, I don't want to pick the Browns as long as Deshaun Watson is starting. I don't feel good rooting for them to beat a spread that I picked them to beat. So on principle, I am also taking the Bengals.
Wonderful. Both of you made really good points, and Corey especially with bringing some reality into this. Oh boy, but I have Browns written down plus the 6.
See, Corey made you feel bad, like in your conscience about picking them.
Yeah. But I think the Browns have the Bengals number. The Browns have been worse than the Bengals for the past 2 years plus at this point. The Browns have rolled them every time.
Have the Browns ever been better than the Bengals?
Like historically? Yeah.
No, like the past in our lifetimes.
Do you count the old?
Because obviously, there was like the Marty Schottenheimer Browns that were really good, but like in our lifetimes,
Bill Belichick's Browns won a playoff game
against the Patriots. Apparently,
yeah, that happens.
There was that.
Anyway, yeah, give me Cleveland.
Well, and Cleveland also in 2021 won a playoff game, right?
That was the 2020 season. They beat Pittsburgh.
Yes. And yeah, Joe Burrow was a rookie that year, and he got hurt. Because so yeah, that year I would say the Browns were better than the Bengals. It's not like the Bengals have been perpetually good. They've had their problems. Anyway, so we are moving on to the next game, the Battle for Texas, which is like the lamest geographical rival of all time. Like,
yes.
Like, nobody cares about this. Like, every Texans fan is just a Cowboys fan that, decided, I'll buy this nifty new jersey. Right? Like, nobody actually cares about the It's like the Nets and the Knicks in New York. It's like,
Ugh.
it's just absolutely irrelevant. But anyway, the Cowboys are 16.5-point home favorites. Not that it matters. They'd be at home if they were in Houston, too.
Mm-hmm.
I used profanity last week because the Cowboys line was very high and still really easy to pick. This feels the same way, to be honest. Like, the Texans suck. They're awful. Apparently the neck ain't playing. Still going to be Kyle Allen, or is the neck going to play?
The neck's back.
The neck is back.
Head, shoulders, knees. Head to wherever you need to go to place your bets. Texans all the way for me.
Nah, I'm taking the Cowboys.
This is the easiest line I have ever seen. Are you kidding? The Cowboys are laying 16.5.
They were laying 11 last week and they won by 35.
And the Cowboys aren't even like that good of a team.
Pretty good.
They're a good defense.
Yes. Micah Parsons
Their
chasing
offense
down the
still has to
just
score.
Yes, that's going to be good.
I'm taking the Texans here. You're taking the Cowboys.
Yes, I'm taking the Cowboys.
Oh my goodness, Corey, we're just what? You're taking the Texans? Oh my God!
I made that
Texans
mistake.
don't need to worry about scoring any points this week. Okay, so how about them Cowboys?
I'm just gonna go ahead and start editing for next week's show notes and just put Corey was alone picking the Texans. Like, I'm just gonna go and do it now.
You're definitely alone picking them. I don't know if you're gonna be right.
I mean, the Browns
locked and loaded.
The Browns played one of the worst games you'll ever see on offense, and they still covered against the Texans last week. The Texans are just a joke. It's an unserious franchise. Cowboys, baby. How about them Cowboys? All right, Vikings at Lions. This is the most hilarious line of the week because the Vikings are 10-2 and are underdogs to a 5-7 Lions team, and they don't have
Lions.
And they don't have any major injuries. Like, it's not like they're missing their quarterback or something like that. No,
and they have T.J. Hawkinson from the Lions.
Well, the Lions have a Goff, and they've got an Amon-Ra, and they've got
a Swift
man
and a
Campbell.
Williams,
and they've got
and a man Campbell.
Aiden Hutchinson.
Aiden Hutchinson's pretty good.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna start with you, Evan. Who you got in this one? Vikings at Lions.
This seems like such a trap for people picking against the spread this week, right? Like, this isn't a serious line. Like, somebody had their elbow on the keyboard when they typed this in or something. This is absurd. So I'm guessing the sportsbooks are just going to be making a whole bunch of money this week off of people like me who are picking the Vikings and the points somehow.
Okay. I like the brand of football the Lions are playing lately. It's fun. It's exciting. It's good football. Even Jared Goff is playing some good football right now. And the Vikings are... this is not exciting. Like, they have a good player. They have a good player. They have Justin Jefferson. Like, Dalvin Cook has been unimpressive for most of this season. T.J. Hawkins is decent, but he's not a difference maker. Not like that. I mean, like, he's been a top 5 fantasy tight end each of the past 5 weeks since he joined the Vikings. And 2 of those games, he scored less than 5 points. Like, that's how much of a joke the tight end position is for fantasy football. And it's also how much of a joke it is that the Vikings went out and got this guy to barely use him in their offense.
Use him more than Adam Thielen.
Basically. That's why Adam Thielen's not on my list of good players that they have with the Vikings.
He's washed.
I told you he was washed and you didn't believe me.
I'm taking the Lions.
Oh.
I don't like laying the points. I kind of expected to get some points to be able to pick the Lions against the Vikings this week, to get some points. But even so, I will lay the points.
Didn't you go down with the Lions last week?
The Lions cooked the Jaguars last week.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah.
misremembering.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we all took the Lions in that
We
one.
did. Yeah. Never mind.
We all got it right.
Yes, we did. More than we thought we would.
It's jarring to look at the standings and see the Lions in second place. Like that's just.
I'm really starting to. I'm disappointed in myself for cutting the cable on them in like what was it, week 6? I think I got rid of them.
I mean, they're still not going to make the playoffs in all likelihood because the NFC East is occupying all these wildcard spots. But
They could
The
have.
Lions have 8 losses or something.
it's 7. They're 5-7, and the lowest. So it's the Commies are 7-5-1. So yeah, the Lions would have to pick up 2 games the rest of the way.
It could happen.
It could.
Washington's not good.
They're not.
Neither are the Lions.
The Lions aren't either.
I think the Lions are better right at this moment.
I'm also really getting a kick out of how they have the streak, like your win streak, in the far right column on ESPN, and for the Giants and the Washington Commanders, it's just blank because they don't have a streak because they tied. It's just
Well, wait. But what if you tie 2 in a row? Like, wouldn't you be like on a 2-game tie streak?
I don't know how they would handle that, but I am curious to see if it happens. But it probably won't happen.
That's a World
Has any
Cup
team
question
ever
right
tied
there.
2 games in a row?
That had to have happened, right? Like sometime
Has
like the
to have.
40s,
At some
right?
point, like back
like
before
before
before they
overtime was
continued
invented?
playing after dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there was something there. But anyway, what game are we talking about?
The
again?
Vikings
Oh, yeah.
and the Lions. Lions minus
So-
2.5. Who are you taking?
If I'm recalling correctly, these teams played back in the early part of the season, I think week 3, and the Lions were ahead for pretty much the whole damn game. And in typical Lions fashion, they blew the game and lost, but I think they still covered the spread because the Vikings were heavy favorites because the Lions are the Lions. This time the Lions are favored, so I'm getting points by being on the team that is going to break the Lions' heart, it feels like. So, it doesn't feel like this feels like an opportunity for the Lions to actually make something interesting happen, to really get in the mix, and they never do that. So I'm going to pick the Vikings, and I'm going to take those 2.5 points. Like, if it was the other way and the Lions were like 2-point underdogs, I would have been like, give me the Lions. But I just the Lions aren't going to win the game, even though they probably should. It's just that's the nature of being a Lions fan. They lose in the dumbest ways possible all the time. And the game's at 1 p.m., so you don't have any voodoo magic working against Kirk. All right. Eagles -7 at Giants. The Giants are showing some signs of, hey, we sucked the whole time, and we all kind of knew it. And the Eagles are showing the opposite of that. They're rolling. They're actually seemingly playing, 4 full quarters, which, much to Corey's chagrin, early in the season, it seemed like they weren't doing as much. Corey, you go first.
Well, I am benching Jalen Hurts this week to rest him for the playoffs, so I'm thinking that the
Good
Eagles
luck
are
with
going to have
that.
some trouble this week.
You do that.
This is an interesting one because the Giants we know are bad. Their record has been and certainly now is a bit fraudulent. But this is an NFC East game. Things can sometimes get weird with division games. And you know what? Screw it. Give me the Eagles. Derrick Henry got completely shut down by this Eagles defense this past week. And Saquon Barkley has been he's been a little hit and miss lately. He's been good against the bad defenses, but he's had a couple of duds recently, which would suggest that he can also be shut down. And because the Giants are so run heavy, the Eagles can stop the run easily. So I think that's going to limit their ability to stay in this game. I'm a little nervous just because the Giants are at home. Like between them being at home and this being a division game, that was kind of where I was thinking I might take the Giants, but I'm going to take the Eagles to beat this spread.
I've got the Eagles slam dunk, right? Like, we know the Eagles are really good, and we know the Giants are bad. What else? I mean, I'm not going to overthink it.
there's no way in hell you could convince me to take the Giants in this game. I think they're so fraudulent that I'm going to need more than a touchdown to pick them to hang with the Eagles. Like it's just that's not a thing. All right, Ravens at Steelers. The Steelers are 2.5-point favorites, presumably as a result of Lamar Jackson not being present for this game. I guess I'll go first this time because why not? I'm going to take the Steelers to cover this line. The Ravens, even with Lamar, have not looked very good. They didn't look very good against Denver, even when Lamar was on the field.
That's
Huntley.
why Lamar was off the field, because they didn't look good, right?
Yeah.
Lamar got sacked because they wouldn't block for him, and that's how he got hurt.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley strikes me as a guy that he gives you like maybe one or two good drives a game, but he's pretty limited. He's a backup quarterback after all. Mm-hmm. The Steelers have shown a little something with Kenny Pickett and George Pickens and Deontay Johnson and not Chase Claypool anymore because he's gone. George Pickens had a pretty rough game. Seemed like he was nervous playing back in his backyard against the Falcons. He had like 5 drops, but I'm figuring he's going to get that straightened out. I think the Steelers, they've got some mojo, and the Ravens are in a bad spot just because of injuries right now. So Steelers, only laying 2.5 at home feels like a reasonable line. I'm going to go with them.
Yeah, I got the Steelers as well. This is, like I said, an hour and a half ago at this point. If don't have your starting quarterback, you're done. So that's it.
Yeah, Steelers have shown that they can be a little bit scrappy lately. Pickett is playing decently. Pickens has been really good for the most part until this past week, and I think that he'll bounce back. I'm going to keep Evan's dad's support of our show rolling at 100% and go ahead and make it a clean sweep. We're all going to be on his Steelers this week.
I seem to recall Mr. Ash was not happy with me I think I picked against the Steelers, and, well, I was right. So, I don't feel bad about calling it how I see it. But I picked the Steelers this week, so there you go. Jaguars at Titans. Titans are laying 4 at home. Corey is doing something, so Evan, you go first.
Corey has walked away.
I just had to toss something in the trash.
No. Titans for me. The Jags don't play well on the road. And they're not very good in general. The Titans, at least, are leading this bad division. The Titans are going to, I think, prove it that they are the best team in this division. So give me the Titans, probably about a touchdown or something.
Titans have been rough lately.
Well, they played the Eagles.
They've had even before the Eagles, they've had a hard time getting Derrick Henry rolling. For the past
they lined up over the
weeks.
center against the Bengals. So there's that.
Or
that
Derrick
cost
Henry
me actual money.
Pass and takes it almost to the house and then fumbles it. And then they, Derrick Henry has so many games this year where he has 30 carries and less than 3 first downs. Because he'll get an 8 or 9 yard carry on first down, and then he doesn't get the first down because they either throw the ball or they take him out and give it to Dontrell Hilliard. It makes no sense to me. I can't really make heads or tails of what Mike Vrabel's been doing lately. Treylon Burks has been pretty good recently. Their defense has been okay. The Jaguars are scrappy, though, and this is a division game between 2 bad teams. Don't get it twisted. The Titans are the best team in this division. They're the best equipped to play and hang with some of the really good teams in the league. But they're not beating those teams. And they play to the level of their competition. And for that reason, I'm going to take the points and take the Jags.
Okay.
Well, I seem to recall many, many moons ago when before Derrick Henry became the absolute menace that he has been for the most part for the last few years, he would generally be kind of quiet in a lot of games. Sometimes he'd be splitting carries with Deion Lewis. But then he'd get to play the Jaguars, and he would spring like 2 different 90-plus yard touchdowns in the game and just absolutely decimate that team.
I mean, I'm here for it. I don't need him this week, but I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll extend my points lead in the league.
Yeah, man, you just gotta have that points lead, man. Your team's trying to make the Hall of Fame, baby. Not just trying to win the title. You want to be a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah. I would love to be a Hall of Famer.
Imagine that.
Yeah. The Hall of Famer Corey Puffett, which I did not say because I didn't want to bother him, but now I'm going to say it again. I'm going to bring it back.
I'm going to bother him.
Corey seemed a little sheepish about it when we said it the first couple of times, so I was like, oh, I'll let it go. Anyway.
Well, then you should ask out of the Hall of Fame then. Like, what?
He's not going to do that. That would be insane.
That would be disrespectful to the whole thing.
Well,
then what's the problem?
You should lie and say that you did steroids and be like, yeah, I juiced, so I'm not worthy. I'm not actually the best cross-country runner in the history of Dematha. I was just really high. You know?
I was just really high.
Anyway, I'm taking the Titans because they're better, and Derrick Henry might reprise his role as, or is it reprise? That's the music thing. Reprises, yeah. Anyway,
so there are 3 lone wolves, 4 lone wolves so far, and 3 of them are mine. So this is definitely shaping up to be a good opportunity for you guys, potentially.
Yeah, this is us. We're ganging up on you to try to,
Or you guys could dig yourself an even deeper hole.
That's very possible. That's the exercise, as some people wisely said. We'll move to the 4 o'clock time slate, so the late afternoon games. We've got 1 game scheduled to start at 4:05. Chiefs at Broncos.
This is originally the Sunday Night Football game.
I'm going to bet that Tony Romo and Jim Nantz are going to call this game because Tony Romo calls all of Patrick Mahomes' games. And I feel like it makes sense because the Chiefs are good, but it's like, man, he just loves him some Patrick Mahomes. Which is fair because Patrick Mahomes is great. But Romo, he really loves him some Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs are favored by 9.5 on the road. It's intriguing because the Broncos' defense is legitimately good. And they are capable of stifling the Chiefs' offense for a time, I think.
If the Broncos' offense had scored 18 points exactly in regulation in each of their games, they would only have 2 losses. They only have 3 wins.
Well, the suggestion then would be that there's no way Denver's scoring more than 18 points, which means they would have to hold the Chiefs to under 27 at least, and that's generous, in order to cover this line. It's probably going to be more like you got to hold them under 20 because they're not going to score.
I don't think the Broncos are going to get beyond 10 points in this game.
Well, you're probably right. You're probably right.
The Chiefs probably have a better defense than the Ravens do right now. And the Broncos couldn't even do that against Baltimore.
You kicked 3 field goals. Yeah, so regardless of how good the Broncos defense is, regardless of the fact that they're at home, to me, like, you have to score some points in order to cover a line against a team that is as good as the Chiefs. Like, Patrick Mahomes is going to figure you out at least on 1 or 2 drives, right? Like, he's going to have a couple drives where it's like, oh, you got him dead to rights and he does some Mahomes magic. The difference is he can't do it every drive this year because he doesn't have the same loaded personnel as he usually does. But
somebody's going to show up in this game. We don't know if it's going to be MVS. We don't know if it's going to be Juju, but somebody is going to show up in this game. It could be Kadarius Toney. Apparently, he might be back this week.
And I know who's going to show up in this game. His name is Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
He ain't going to get held to only like 17 points, which is like the upper bound of what it would take for the Broncos to cover this line. So I got to take the Chiefs and lay the points. It's a big line, but you can't score.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs too. I don't have anything more to add.
I've got the Chiefs as well, and just all I want to add is that Jim Nantz and Tony Romo will be in Buffalo this week.
Oh, they're calling a 1 o'clock game. That's interesting.
Yeah, because Fox has a doubleheader. So they're doing Fox has 2 of the 3 late games this week.
Gotcha. Okay. So We'll move to the 425 slate. We got 2 of those starting.
Both games featuring NFC West teams hosting NFC South teams, and the home team is favored by 3.5 in both games.
What? Also, the Panthers and the Seahawks both kind of wear blue, and the Buccaneers and the 49ers both wear red.
Didn't even think about that, but yeah, there you go.
I just thought of that.
Wow.
Anyway, so we'll start with Panthers at Seahawks. Seahawks only laying 3.5, and I emphasize the word only because the Seahawks are actually pretty good, even though they probably shouldn't have struggled as hard as they did to beat the Rams, but, it's hard to win in the NFL. Cliche, whatever. The Panthers are booty butt cheeks, have been pretty much all year. Yeah, Seahawks. I don't think this one's that hard.
You could double this, and I would still take the Seahawks.
I probably would too.
If you went to 7.5,
Get the hook, yeah.
if you had the hook if you double and then add a hook, I might take the Panthers at that point. But anything 7 or under, I'm taking Seahawks all the way.
I am in complete agreement with you guys. Seahawks. The Panthers are just awful. Like they don't have anything going for them.
Nope.
Particularly on the road, and at this building especially, with Sam Darnold, who's seeing ghosts at home. And that game was in New Jersey. So like,
was it in New Jersey? I thought that was in New England.
Oh, that was in Jersey. I mean, doesn't matter, right? This is the loudest or second loudest stadium in the NFL. So, Darnold's going to be dead meat. Seahawks big.
All right. Buccaneers at 49ers. The 49ers are 3.5-point home favorites. Tom Brady is an underdog to some guy named Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought?
It's a quarterback who is starting against him, who was actually taken later in a draft than he was.
Yeah. Brady wasn't Mr. Irrelevant.
Brady wasn't even in the 200s.
That's true. He was barely
outside of the 200s.
He's like the roar for Evan. He's like 199.
I mean, I always have my coaster rankings here at hand, so probably.
I want to hear which roller coaster is number 199.
I think
so who is the Tom Brady of Evan's roller coaster?
It's probably not a Tom Brady.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Wait, please don't tell me you're
6.
count
Roar.
Counting backwards. Counting backwards.
Yeah, counting backwards from 205 to get to 199, right?
Yeah.
Did I count enough?
You have to count to
5.
7.
Oh, 7?
Yeah, because 05, 04, 03, 02, 01, 200, and 99.
Oh, okay. Well, Roar's number 200. We got Grizzly from King's Dominion at 199.
Ooh.
Also awful.
Yes, I'm familiar. I know because I was there. I rode it with you when you experienced it for the first time. It sucked. We did not ride it again. Anyway,
I'm taking Tom Brady.
Really?
Yeah,
what?
You saw the throws he was making at the end of that Saints game.
But he's been doing that all year, and they still suck.
I know. But I think they've got a little something going with Rashad White at running back in that offense. He's added some juice that
he did grass ball.
He did, but he's a rookie. He'll learn. I don't think that's gonna until it becomes like a regular thing like it did with Melvin Gordon. I'm willing to give Rashad White the benefit of the doubt that he is not going to be that.
Plus, like to his credit, it was a legitimately good peanut punch from behind when he was running downfield.
Yes.
Like that was an awareness issue, not a I don't know how to hold on to the football. That was I'm running downfield.
He will learn. He will improve. He'll get better. He's been good in the past few weeks since he started getting into the game with them. And he's added a spark that, Leonard Fournette was kind of adding early in the year, but has not in several weeks.
He's slowed down quite a bit.
So, yeah, I mean, I like the Buccaneers here. The one thing that we know about the Buccaneers defense is they generally are really good against the run. They've gotten gashed a couple of times this season, but generally, even this season, they've been pretty good against the run, and that's what the 49ers do. So I suspect that the Buccaneers will be able to contain the 49ers run game to an extent. Obviously, you can never completely contain it when you've got Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. Like, these are two of the best ball carriers in the NFL. Like, they are probably the two best pass catcher / ball carrier guys in the league. Like, nobody does both better than the two of them. And so that is going to make things difficult. But I also don't expect that Purdy's going to have a pretty time of it in this game. So,
it's not going to have a Purdy time.
Yeah. Give me the Bucs.
This might be another Lonely Island game for you, Corey. If I have any finger on the pulse of how Evan feels, I'm taking the 49ers. I feel like I've seen this Bucks team lose to far worse teams than this. Even like they lost to the PJ Walker Panthers badly. Evan and I were at M&T Bank Stadium while that was going on. They lost to the Steelers with Mitch Trubisky filling in for an injured Kenny Pickett. They lost to the Browns.
They lost to the Packers.
That's true. Well, at least with the Packers, Mike Evans was out. They had like no healthy receivers. Like
because he got in the fight the previous week.
Yeah, he got his daddy was bothering him, so he took a cheap shot on him and he got himself suspended. Yes, but yeah, like the Bucks they've shown so much. Like it just looks so hard for them to do anything right. Like it just seems like every single thing that they have to do, it's like pulling teeth. That's the opposite of the 49ers as far as I'm concerned. I just think the 49ers are too much of a better team.
Just sort of thinking quickly, not doing analysis, but the only position where the Buccaneers have an advantage is at quarterback. And their quarterback's 45 years old. But like the 49ers as a whole 53, I think, are much better. I think 49ers are better coached. I think 49ers, they're definitely going to win this game. And 3.5 points, maybe that's about right. I think they win by more than that. So give me the Niners at home. I think it's kind of an easy one. The Buccaneers, like Eric said, they don't look good. Like the Niners at least look good. Brock Purdy, Jimmy G, doesn't matter.
All right, Sunday Night Football. Dolphins at Chargers. Dolphins are 3-point favorites on the road. That's can't say. I guess I'm not shocked, right? Because the Chargers have been underachieving, it feels, and the Dolphins have been cooking. So even with their bad game against the 49ers, this is I'm sure Mina Kimes will have people living in her mentions throughout this one because a bunch of Dolphins fans are really salty that she thinks Justin Herbert's better than Tua, and they just won't let that go. I probably agree with that in terms of talent, but Tua's also been way better than Justin Herbert has ever been at any point in his career, so I think you got to give him some credit for that. But anyway, this is not strictly about Tua versus Herbert. This is also about the Dolphins at the Chargers. So I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that most of the fans at this game are going to be, or maybe not most, but a big chunk are going to be Dolphins fans. Yeah, so maybe most. Yeah, it might actually be most.
SoFi gets 2 primetime games this week.
Oh, right, because
tomorrow night.
Right, because the Rams play Thursday against who they play?
The Raiders.
Yeah.
The Raiders.
So I guess since I've done all the talking, I'll make my pick first. I'm going to take the Dolphins and lay the 3 points because I think they're better. They're playing better. And their coach isn't on my list. So that helps.
That does help.
I think this is a game that the Chargers should win if I was looking at this matchup in the preseason. I didn't think the Dolphins would be as good as they are, and I didn't think the Chargers would be underperforming like they are. I think the Chargers, they're out of juice, right? Like they need a Charger or something. Like this, Brandon Staley. Like this defense is going to get lit up by the Dolphins. Like that's definitely going to happen because Staley's supposed to be a defensive guy, and the Chargers defense is hot garbage despite having a Bosa and Khalil Mack and Derwin James.
Derwin James is hurt and didn't practice today.
Oh well, even worse.
Yes.
Right. Dolphins roll the Chargers.
Yeah. I definitely had some difficulty when I first was thinking about this game because the Chargers have a lot of talent, but they also have a lot of injured talent, and they have a lot of underachieving talent. And I don't think the Dolphins are a team that's likely to get, blown out 2 weeks in a row. And granted, they could win this game by less than 3, but I find that unlikely. I think they'll win by at least 3. I'm going to take the Dolphins as well.
The only thing that's holding me back on this one is the Dolphins making back-to-back trips to the West Coast because they were in San Francisco this past Sunday. So, I don't know if they stayed out west or went all the way back to Miami and going back to California again.
When the Bills played 2 straight games in Detroit, they went back to Buffalo. Granted, it's a much shorter trip.
They went back to Buffalo in between?
Yeah, they did.
And it was only 4 days in between?
No, because I think it was a Thursday and then a
It was a Sunday and then a Thursday.
Oh, yeah. It was a Sunday. It was
Thanksgiving.
Thursday. But yeah, they did go back to Buffalo. I remember them talking about that during the game.
Yeah, but that's like an hour flight?
I mean, if it's not 6 feet of snow, then yeah.
Yeah. So that doesn't quite compare to 6 hours across the country, but. Yeah. But I feel like the Dolphins, anytime they play a team, they can't reliably just get to the passer, which the Chargers, even though they've got decent pass rush options, haven't been able to do. They're going to get lit up just because teams can't keep up with both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and their other guys are pretty good too. And
Sherfield had a big day the other day.
Yeah, so it feels like the Chargers don't have what the 49ers had, which is the ability to overwhelm Tua with pass rush. And that means they're going to get lit up, and the Chargers' offense is going to underachieve like it has all season. Like, they scored, 20 points against the Raiders? And it took Justin Herbert throwing one of those ridiculous passes that he and maybe 2 other guys in the league could make that throw that makes you say, wow, that was amazing. Why isn't he better?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I
look at his coach.
You look at his coach, sure, but you also look at him a little bit too. It's like, dude, you showed this insane talent in all aspects of playing football and playing quarterback. Why aren't you better? Like, he should be among the MVP candidates, but it just seems like inopportune mistakes and random stretches of anemia for this Chargers offense. And I can't pretend like it's not at least somewhat Justin Herbert's fault. He's the quarterback, right? Yeah. Like, I'm not saying it's all him. I still think he's really good, but I'm just waiting for the mind-blowing experience to go beyond just a couple of plays a game. I'm waiting for that emergence where he can dominate for all 60 minutes of a game. Anywho's, Monday Night Football. Last game of the week. Doesn't look like a very fun game. We'll have the Mannings. Hopefully they'll have better guests this time. Although shout out to Randy Moss. He was great as expected. Patriots at Cardinals. Patriots are laying, they are laying 1.5 on the road. The Patriots they're the toughest team in the league, I think, to nail down because they've had some really impressive games where their defense looked lights out. They've had some just heinous games where they got blown off the field. They had a game against the Vikings where Mac Jones looked really good, but they somehow let primetime Kirk Cousins light them up. So it's hard to know what to do with them. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, it's not that hard to know what to do with them. They're terrible. Just flat out, they suck. So I'm going to go with the Patriots. No, I'm going to go with the Patriots.
Cardinals suck. I'm going to go with the Cardinals.
I'm going to pick them.
Well, I am going to go with the Cardinals just because I just feel like they have more going for them right now. Like they got the better quarterback by a long shot. They've got, I think that right now, James Conner is playing just as well as Ramondre Stevenson. Like Stevenson has kind of slowed down a step recently, and Damian Harris has been a non-factor even when he's been on the field. The Cardinals actually have a receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, and the Cardinals defense doesn't hold a candle to the Patriots defense, but I think it's going to have an easier time stopping this Patriots offense than the Patriots defense will with the Cardinals defense. I think the Cardinals will do just enough to win this game by like a point or two.
I mean, Eric, you and I have been in lockstep the whole way through, and that'll continue. The Patriots look no further than the coaching matchup. We've got
biggest mismatch
the best
of all
coach
time.
in NFL history going up against the worst coach in the history of the universe. So,
says me.
Which way are you gonna go?
Corey, who picked the Cardinals?
Yeah,
yeah. You went with your boy Cliff Kingsbury.
I sure did.
To beat Bill Belichick.
You've been watching too much Hard Knocks in season, man.
What? Are you kidding me? The Cardinals offense is going to get shut down.
I'm going to go 13-0 this week, just saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think the
you're going
Cardinals
to earn it if you do.
Yeah. So you're going to get a sense of what I've been going through with the Cardinals on the lonely island. It's going to be agonizing. So, we know you haven't been sleeping very much. You're not going to sleep very much Monday night either. This game is going to be brutal. You have to watch the whole thing to see if the Cardinals hang in there.
Good Lord.
But the problem is, Evan, by virtue of that, we have to watch too. Like if we had all just picked the Patriots, be snoozing. But
I'm going to bed.
All right. So that does it for our picks. I guess you could still enter into our picks contest if you want. You're definitely not going to win the season, but you could win week to week, and we'll give you a shout out on this show, as we did to James Daly, who, as we mentioned before, won 10 games and cooked us because Corey was the league high, if you will, for the Sports Ballers, and he had 9 wins. So shout out to James. And y'all can be on the show for a brief second too, if that entices you. Do we have any? Actually, yeah, we do have one more topic to get to. It'll be brief. Evan and I, once again, are making plans to do crazy stuff, and we've probably made the craziest plans we've made yet. So there's that. We joined a coaster club. Evan, do you want to take the reins here and tell Corey what that actually means?
Yes. I mean, the Coaster Club, I guess, was sort of founded on a podcast, and we're announcing on our podcast that we joined Buzzed Bar's Coaster Club. These guys are an absolute riot, and it should be a fun time. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of drinks and plenty of coasters, so, who doesn't love that? I don't know that I love them at the same time, but, should be fun.
Yes, and we have done this in anticipation of attending Hollywood Nights, which is an event that happens at Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana. It'll be June 2nd and 3rd. Yes, Corey. Yes.
I was expecting this to be like Universal Hollywood.
No, we're going to the Midwest.
Yeah. We have to drive to Indiana.
We're going to flyover country for this, man. That's where we're going. But first, the plan is to go to Kings Island in Mason, Ohio, Memorial Day weekend, and then perhaps spend the following week, a few days, at Cedar Point, which is on Lake Erie, and then drive to Indiana to go to Hollywood Nights for 2 days. So we're going to be busy and gone for a lot.
Exhausted.
Might have to take the podcast off that week because we're not going to be around.
I mean, I did the podcast live from Disneyland.
That's true.
2019, so.
That's true.
A stormtrooper put his gun at me or whatever.
Stormtrooper. Did you call him a super trooper, Evan?
Stormtrooper.
Okay, good. All
When will this be?
This will be the first week of June / last week of May. Well,
peak coaster season right there.
That'll be like right after. Isn't that right after the
I don't know.
You got something?
the combine? It's like right after
The combine's
in
in
February.
Oh, is it? So
The draft is in April.
oh, what am I
Yeah,
thinking
so that's
of?
not going to be an issue.
I don't know.
Well, whatever.
NBA Finals coming up, I guess. So, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, apparently Hollywood Nights is a very difficult ticket to get because, like, the tickets went on sale at noon yesterday, and I logged onto the website at like 12:05 yesterday, and got 2 tickets, and then by like 12:25, all the tickets were gone. So probably what they should do, I mean, despite this being a little pricey for a park like Holiday World, they should raise the price even more if the tickets are in such high demand. Or
Like
they
how-
should just have a second Hollywood Nights.
I like how Evan was, essentially 20 minutes early getting those tickets, but when it came to getting his hotel reservation for Durham, he waited until it was like too late to get the price.
And I still paid less than Eric did.
That's actually not true. I got my deposit back. Like that was what was making the price look insane. I was like, wait a second, that's nuts. But yeah, that was what was going on. I got a credit back for that. So yeah, the rate was probably lower than yours.
Okay, well anyway, yeah, I mean, with coaster stuff, you gotta take that seriously. Weddings and whatever. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
One of your best friend's weddings. We can procrastinate on that, but man, when it comes to Holiday World,
I mean, Hollywood Nights is one of the premier enthusiast events.
I didn't even know it existed until 2 days ago.
I'm assuming that happens every year, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
You better not get married again. Oh my God.
Certainly not every year.
I certainly hope not.
I'm only showing up to. I would show up to one more.
Only one more.
Like if you for whatever reason got married a third time, I'd be like, Corey, you gotta stop. Hopefully this is it. Like
The third
This
one
is
is
it.
too many.
okay, this is it. All right. This better be.
Jesus.
Hey man, I'm just saying. My cousin got married 3 times.
Good for him, her.
Her.
Good for her.
I went to 2 weddings at the same venue for the same bride within the span of like 3 years.
Use
my
the same
goodness.
venue.
Yes. With the same DJ and everything. I was like, I feel like this is bad vibes. You know, like,
Running it back.
shit, just read it back.
Was the second wedding at the same venue? Was that the second marriage overall, or was that the third?
That
one?
was number 3. The
I
first
hope-
one was I was probably too young to even
I hope that
attend.
whoever she married the first time also used the same venue with all the same vendors when he got remarried.
I hope for
'Cause
his
that would be hilarious.
I hope for whoever his prospective wife would be that he didn't get
Well,
remarried.
that's true.
'Cause
That's fair.
She's a little nuts.
I'm just saying from an outside
dear.
perspective, I think that would be hilarious.
Could be something, but anyway, that's enough chatter about that. Unless Evan, do you have any more to add about our adventure planning for?
I mean, it's 6 months out, so
Yeah.
we'll be sure to update y'all after it happens because it's going to be an amazing time. Hoping for good weather. Eric, Holiday World offers free sunscreen to all people who are, I guess, so inclined, which seems like everybody in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. But you won't get fried like a French fry.
Well, that's wonderful, except if I spend the entire week before that at Kings Island and Cedar Point, I'm not going to need sunscreen because I'm already going to be cooked.
Oh, that's true. They also have unlimited free Pepsi at Holiday World.
Well, that's more like it.
Yeah.
All right, and some personal news from me. I will be participating in not going to Holiday World, but attending Holiday Ball, which is a dance event happening this weekend in D.C. It's 3 days of competitive dancing. Your boy's going to be there trying to win some trophies. We'll see if I do, and even if I don't, it'll be a good time. So looking forward to that. So that should do it for this episode of the show, you can email us if you want to contribute to our mailbag, which is often barren. And send us an email at thesportsballers@gmail.com if you want to hear us talk about anything or ask a question or make snide remarks or air out any anxieties, whatever you need.
Or all the above.
We don't care. We just like to hear from people. You can also find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. And if you've got somewhere else that you prefer to be able to hear us, let us know, and we will try to get on there as well. You can also follow us on Twitter at SportsBallers18. This is a good idea for updates about showtime starting. Sometimes we rearrange schedules. Sometimes you just need a reminder, hey, you boys, the Sports Ballers, are back today. Tune in. It's going to be a good time. You can also follow us individually. Corey is at Corey Puffett. I am at Quagmire67. Evan is at Evan_Ash13. Before we wrap up, guys, any shout-outs before we call it a night?
Just a shout-out to Neil Murphy, my broadcast partner. We had our first home game for the DeMatha Stags yesterday. DeMatha beat Roosevelt to improve to 3-1 on the season. And we aired it live on DM Stags TV on YouTube. You can still go back and watch that game if you're so inclined. DeMatha has a couple more home games this month, but they're part of a Hoops Fest, so we will not be covering them. Our next game will be on January 3rd. But yeah, shout out to him for being back with me for another season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have any shout outs, but is that Eleanor Roosevelt, the school with no windows?
Yes.
Yes.
And then also, I saw the clip of the broadcast you put on your Instagram today or yesterday. I don't remember.
Y'all were standing super far apart.
Yeah, y'all were standing super far apart. But then also, Corey, you were just wandering around. Why can't you stand in one place?
I was noticing I was moving a lot. I was like shifting my weight and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't sit still. I can't stand still.
Yeah, I know. Shaking the table here with your leg tremors.
Yeah, but that's all I got. Let's get out of here.
All right. Well, shout out to Carlos Alcaraz, who is the current world #1 tennis player. He's the youngest world #1 on the men's side, I think, ever. At 19 years old, achieving that. And fun fact, it's the first time in the history of the Association of Tennis Professionals that on the men's side, we have a #1 and a #2 being from the same nation since, I think, 1996, with Alcaraz occupying the #1 spot and Rafael Nadal at #2. Both men are from Spain. I imagine the previous time it was the United States that had the two #1 players, probably Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi or Jim Courier or somebody like that. But it doesn't matter. Big accomplishment for him. He was awesome to watch. He took out our boy Big Foe in the semifinals of the U.S. Open. Shout out to him, too. He was at the Illinois game hanging out with Gary Williams. That was fun.
Nice.
So, yeah, good times. Thank you guys for tuning in. Next week, Evan will be running the show. We'll be recapping Week 14. Maybe getting into college football until bowl season, so that's pretty much done. Hopefully we'll get some good news about the Orioles and their free agent splurging or lack thereof, but probably not. And maybe Corey will get some more good news from the Yankees because they actually like to spend money up there. But we will see when we will see. Until then, take it easy.
I just want to add,
okay, fine.
Yeah, bowl week starts December 11th. And ends January 10th. So, let's get set for bowl week this week.
Thank you.
And this month.
Cool.
Just hit the button, Corey.
Yeah, we're done.
I'm tired.